to Turner. The rainbow is worth 3.
Jonathan Taylor having a monster game.
Joseph Newgarden takes him down to the white line. They battle for the lead at 3.
Richardson on a design run. Touchdown! I-N-D-Y.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Good morning. It is game day for the NBA Finals. Game number 3 comes your way later on tonight. Gainbridge Fieldhouse begins at 8:30. Our airtime with the pregame, 8 o'clock with Pat Boylan. Then Mark Boyle has the play-by-play along with Eddie Gill. And before that, JMV is going to be partying at the pub. He might have started already, James Boyd. Just going to go right up until 8 o'clock tonight. I don't know how that's going to work.
He might be. Good morning. Thank you all for tuning in. I will be over at the pub joining JMV at 4 p.m. today. So if you're around, stop by and say what's up.
I love the pub. I watched Purdue, Virginia, not to bring up a dark moment for Purdue fans, but I watched Purdue, Virginia there some years ago. So the pub will be a great spot, and cannot wait. 25 years ago today was Game 3, the first ever home
The exact
NBA
date?
Finals
Wow.
game. Yeah, June 11th in 2000 was Game 3. Of course, they got it all the way to a Game 6. Actually, the last time the Pacers have played at home in the NBA Finals, they smoked the LA Lakers. And that was back in the 2-3-2 format. Now we're in the 2-2-1-1-1 format. So we'll see if the atmosphere lives up to it, because Rick Carlisle, I think, with us yesterday and has not shied away from what he experienced Game 1 and 2 in Oklahoma City. And Gainbridge Fieldhouse has no reason other than to be absolutely rocking tonight.
That is the voice of Kevin Bowen. And speaking of Rick Carlisle, if you missed it, for you 7 o'clockers, we're going to play that interview, most of it coming up at about 7:35 this morning as we get ready to go into Game 3. And you see where the coach is coming from there, as the guys had a chance to talk to him during the show yesterday. And we're just ready to get going. We're ready for some more NBA Finals basketball. And I kind of feel like maybe the time away has done some good, because I start thinking about it last night, and really, I think tonight the pressure is kind of – I know everybody thinks it's a must-win for the Pacers, and I kind of agree with that too. But I feel like there's still a lot of pressure on the Oklahoma City Thunder, because despite the fact of them really controlling Game 2, Pacers come home, they did their job. You go on the road in the NBA Finals, you want to split, right? You come home and mission accomplished. I think if I'm a Pacer this morning – I'm talking myself into, hey, I feel pretty good about this team. We're going to take care of business at home. We're going to win tonight, and we'll worry about Game 4 in a few days. But I did my job. Mission accomplished. I came back with a win. Now it's my turn to just hold serve at home. I know the crowd's going to be rocking. We like playing here. I think the Pacers go into it with a really good mindset tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think plenty of pressure on both teams. I'm not going to sit here and act like there's this, if you want to win an NBA title, you probably should win tonight's basketball game.
Yeah, something crazy like if it's tied 1-1, if you win Game 3, 80% of the time you win the series.
Yeah,
so,
and like the Pacers would lose home court if they were to lose tonight, whereas obviously the Thunder at some point have to win one of these 3 games if you want to play out the rest of the series in Indiana. Tyrese Haliburton, I guess we should start there. Not on the injury report. He did say he is dealing with something lower left leg. I was briefly at Pacers practice yesterday. He had one of the kinesio tape or whatever it is.
Kinetic tape. Yeah.
On the left lower left leg area. He looked to be moving fine. Granted, they were probably moving at about 70% of speed by the time we entered practice. Rick Carlisle did, although he didn't say it to us, he did say some discomfort for Tyrese from a leg standpoint. But again, he's not on the injury report, so you would think adrenaline would kick in coming up tonight at 8:30. Obviously, that is a huge, huge storyline. The spread continues to climb, 5.5 now for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And James, just anecdotally, I feel like listening to some people around the NBA media world yesterday when I was over there very briefly, and I know you probably feel the same way, no one believes the Pacers will be winning this series. So I don't know if that gets back to the home locker room tonight, but even the 1-1 split, I don't think has offered much inspiration to the national media.
Well, you know what the national media can do. I just won't even say it on the radio this morning.
Dang, it's that bad?
No, I got a lot of friends in the national media, but when it comes to predicting the Pacers, I go pound sand. I don't care. I was
gonna say, we are hoping to have a member of the national media join us at 9 o'clock. We'll see if.
I like them. They're good friends, but that's the reason I can call them out too.
Yeah, fair enough. But no, yeah, I went out to dinner with a lot of NBA staffers and, well, not employed by the NBA, but writers and media types. And yes, a lot of them think this series will be over quickly. I got a crazy look when I said Thunder in 7, and I was like, that was my prediction before the series even started. I was like, man, you guys will take the Pacers and get out of the game in this series? And a lot of them don't think so, but obviously they're not out there playing, and this is why we play the games. I do think that this is a must-win for the Pacers. I think I've said that from the start of the series. 2 things. I don't think that the Pacers can win this series if they fall behind. I don't care if it's 1 game, 2 games, whatever. They're not, in my opinion, coming back to win the series. And then number 2, whoever wins 2 games in a row first is like, to me, it's almost like that's the person who's going to win the series. That's the team that'll win the series. So a lot of things at stake tonight, but this has been a resilient group all year, which is why I won't count out the Pacers. I know that they've been outplayed, so to speak, for the majority of these 2 games. But again, it's 1-1. You have a chance to come home. And I do wonder, okay, do we see some variance in shooting? Like, for example, do we see, a guy like Benedict Mathurin have a big game at home, whereas an Oklahoma City Thunder player, not named Aaron Wiggins, doesn't have like a great game because they're not at home anymore. So things of that nature, how did that all kind of play out? But also just offensively, what new wrinkles do we see? Because what has been your approach through the first 2 games has not worked, in my opinion, for Tyrese Haliburton to get him more involved as a scorer.
Well, we'll find out how it all plays out a little bit later on tonight. We'll be talking about it throughout the day. As I mentioned, we'll hear from Rick Carlisle. If you missed it yesterday, we're going to replay that coming up in about 28 minutes from now, 7:35 or so. You can hear what the coach has to say for yourself if you missed that in the 8 o'clock hour yesterday. Indiana Fever losing again last night. Not again. It's the first time in 3 games, but without Caitlin Clark still. No match for the Atlanta Dream on the road, 77-58. We'll talk more about that in a minute as well. But at some point, they need to get Caitlin Clark back because it's clear that team revolves around her.
At 2-3 without her, that is the fewest points scored in a game, 58 in nearly 3 years for the franchise. So when you think about, obviously, what she would provide you offensively, probably goes without saying, but the 58-point total, I think, is an indicator of that. So, yeah, Saturday with the Liberty, arguably the best team in the league. And so that would be a great game for Caitlin Clark to make her comeback. They also go out west for a West Coast trip, 3 games coming up next week. So, that is a little bit more of a condensed schedule once they start hitting the road for their first kind of true road trip of the season. So continue to watch that. Stephanie White has indicated long-term. So I don't think Saturday is some slam dunk, but they will have a couple of off days, practice days, to try and ramp her up and get her out there on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird 5-game stretch because, as you mentioned, beginning the 19th, they go to Golden State, Vegas, and Seattle. They come home for 1 game 2 days after the Seattle game to play the Sparks, and they go right back on the road for a game the next night at Dallas. It's going to be a tough 5-game stretch right there.
Absolutely. So, again, to Kevin's point, I don't know if Saturday is a slam dunk, but from a scheduling standpoint, these opponents are going to start getting better as you look at the rest of their just skid. I mean, New York, obviously, like you said, Kevin, really good team. Connecticut is struggling, but Golden State, shout out to the expansion team. They've been playing pretty good ball. Yes, they play very well as of late. I have to give them their credit. I thought they would be like most expansion teams, bad, but they've been relatively, respectable throughout their first few games of the season.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll get to your first check down of the day. We got the head coach, Rick Carlisle, coming up at about 7:35 this morning. A lot to talk about over at West 56th Street. We'll do that next with the Colts on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Fan.
Good morning and welcome into the Fan Morning Show along with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. I'm Jeff Rickard, and the Indiana Pacers will be back under the spotlight tonight. Game 3 of the NBA Finals takes place at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Oklahoma City Thunder have evened the series at 1 game apiece. Pacers are hoping home court advantage is exactly what they need. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, KB, averaging 32.7 points, a little over 6 assists, and 5 rebounds a game in this postseason, and he's averaging 36 a game, right on brand, here in this final series so far. How do you stop or slow him down?
Pray. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have great answers at this point. It just seems like he is truly a walking bucket. You know, I guess, can you keep him off the foul line? They did a better job of that in Game 1 versus Game 2. But, I thought James brought up a good point early on. Oftentimes in series start to shift venues, do the others for each team. Does one rise, a.k.a. the home team, and the others, kind of get back to a little bit of water finding its level. The Pacers, I thought their bench played okay in Oklahoma. Like, Obi Toppin really good in Game 1. McConnell I thought was actually decent. Shepard and Bryan, for what it's worth, they did hit an occasional open shot. But do you see, you brought up Mathurin, some of these other ancillary pieces really rise up now that they're in a comfortable building. Granted, it is a big, big stage.
And James Boyd, I know you are going to be there tonight, and you're going to be rocking the roof off. JMV is going to be over at the pub beginning at 3 o'clock. He'll take you right up until our pregame show starts on the network with Pat Boylan beginning at 8, and then Mark Boyle and Eddie Gill take it over at 8:30 to let you listen to Game 3 of the NBA Finals. What is the key to the game tonight in your mind?
Ooh, a lot of it has to do with getting Tyrese involved early, offensively, as a scorer. I think that the 2 feet in the paint thing is one thing, but, getting 2 hands to go towards the rim, as a jump shot or a floater or a layup or something will be big as well. So just getting him involved, making sure that they stay engaged on offense.
All right, that again starts with JMV's coverage at 3 o'clock this afternoon, tip at 8:30. The Indiana Fever dropped to 4-5 on the road last night. They dropped one to the Atlanta Dream, 77-58. Just couldn't get much going offensively. Another game without Caitlin Clark dealing with that quad strain. Natasha Howard led the way with 15 and 10. Aerie McDonald, there she goes again, 14, and Kelsey Mitchell had 11. Those are the only 3 Fever in double figures, JV.
Yeah, I mean, the Fever got smoked in that third quarter, only scored 9 points compared to Atlanta's 23, and obviously that is a big shift in that game.
Yeah, Brianna Jones led the way for the Dream, 21 points, 10 rebounds. They'll play again, the Fever will, on Saturday against the New York Liberty over at the Fieldhouse. Hopeful that Caitlin Clark will be back for that one?
I can't even say that they're hopeful. I just think that they're playing it by ear, day by day. That would be my hope, but as for the
I
team,
hope to play Augusta National one day.
Yeah.
Hopeful and injuries are always one of the funnier words.
And they've been very, like as they do with most stars, very cautious to put things out there, kind of like Rick Carlisle was yesterday with us and Tyrese's lower leg injury.
Yeah, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. So we're looking forward to seeing how that injury heals up over the course of the coming week or so. Now, as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, the Cubs did get a win yesterday, Mark Dykton. They beat the Phillies on the road 8-4, so you can feel pretty good about that one right there.
We don't lead with a complete Game 3
hang out.
hitter.
Let me get there.
This is 2025 Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Preach,
People
Kevin.
don't
Preach.
throw complete games, let alone on June 10th.
See, I wanted to
3
take...
hits, 1 walk, Andrew bleeping Abbott.
Don't look now, but here come the Red Legs.
Even Mark Dykton would agree with that. Thank you, Mark.
Man, oh man. Trying to build him up to take that rug right out from underneath him, and you won't let me get there.
Stunned that Mark Dykton is offering more Reds respect than Jeff Rickard on this Wednesday morning.
Jeff, you got to punch first, okay?
Man.
Dude, I'm telling you, I've got it covered, guys. The Reds won 5 games in a row right now. They hope to keep it going here as they're unstoppable right now. The Cleveland Guardians can't stop them.
Hey, I mean, you should feel pretty good about your team.
All right, then the Toronto Blue Jays beat the St. Louis Cardinals by a score of 10-9. Indians beat the St. Paul Saints 3-2 over at Victory Field last night. Same 2 teams will play again this afternoon at 1:35. So, JB, maybe if you're bored this afternoon, getting ready to just trying to find something to do before the game starts tonight, you can do that.
I'll be over at Colts for day 2 of veteran minicamp, so I will not be over there, although I wish I could be. And then, like I said, going to visit JMV at the pub and then getting ready for game number 3.
All right, speaking of the Colts, the new ownership group the daughters of Jim Irsay meeting with the media for the first time since the passing of Mr. Irsay a couple of weeks ago. What did they have to say, Kevin Bowen, that piqued your interest?
Yeah, I think we should definitely play some audio coming up. Really first time for a lot of people. James, you mentioned it yesterday on the show. You really hadn't heard from Carly Irsay.
I truly did not know what her voice sounded like.
So I thought, all three of them, struck a great balance in not only speaking, about their father publicly for the first time, but, also explained their history and growing up with the organization. And I thought, Carly had a little bit of a kind of a drop the mic moment late in that presser and saying, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but, some new ownership groups around the NFL, hey, we started the hedge fund and this is our hobby now to own the NFL team. And she's like, no. This is our business. We didn't start. Yes, they obviously were, born into money, but we didn't start some sort of, ancillary moneymaker. And now we're like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool one day to buy the NFL team. That's been their life. And really for all three of them, but Carly especially, it's been their life here lately. So I thought that was kind of the general theme and no hesitancy whatsoever. And, hey, we might move the franchise or anything like that. So I thought the football questions provided some interesting answers as well. And, boy, they walk into the franchise, especially Carly, at a critical juncture on the football side of the building.
And we will look forward to hearing some of that a little bit later on. Rick Carlisle as well spoke with the guys yesterday for a while. We'll play some of that for those who don't get to hear that during the 8 o'clock hour most of the time because they're on their way to work. So we got a lot to do, and it's going to be a great day. And I don't know, should I run upstairs and grab the Pacers jersey and don that again since it clearly led to a victory in Game 1, Kevin?
Oh, I forgot you did rock that in Game 1.
So here's my only question. You had it on at the beginning of the show when you did it in Game 1. Is it too late?
No, because it's still...
Has the window passed?
It's still the beginning of the show.
Okay.
It's still the beginning of the show.
After your golf experience yesterday, do you have a U.S. Open pick for us before tomorrow?
I'll tell you this. I don't know who plays best out of the rough. I saw a video yesterday at Oakmont, somebody dropping the ball into the rough, and it just disappeared. And we're talking like 3 feet off the fairway, Kevin. They have got that thing set up. Also, somebody putting from 100 yards out to roll up to the green. So that's how fast the greens are going to be. That's how deep the rough is going to be. I heard a couple of people yesterday saying that they don't think the winner's going to shoot under par.
Well, so Angel Cabrera,
who does that favor?
In 2007 did not. A 5-over was the champion then. Dustin Johnson was 4-under last time the U.S. Open was held there. I love it. I want carnage. I want guys crying. I want guys bleeding. I want guys weeping to the USGA. I want them absolutely on their knees saying, it's too hard out here. I love our United States Open.
So you did see video of me playing golf yesterday.
I thought you said you you
I
played
did
well.
all
You said
right.
you shot a
I did
43.
okay.
That sounds good.
I
for
did
the first
okay.
time in 2 years.
Yeah, it was not good. And then I started to go to the back nine, and after about 2 holes of back nine, my shoulders are like, okay, this is really fun, but we're going to dial this back a little bit now.
If you want a prediction, I'll go Bryson DeChambeau. Just to twist the knife when it comes to
Kevin's favorite.
I know you're not a favorite.
Flipping James off underneath the laptop.
He's not a favorite of yours anymore, but I don't know, the strength, and he hasn't played that great lately, and I don't know what's going on, but it seems like a John Rahm kind of course, doesn't it?
Well, hasn't he played well on Live?
He played, yeah, but I guess I don't count that. I don't know.
The opening tee
He's on
shot
what, Kevin?
tomorrow will be hit by the Butler alum. That would be Matt Vogt. I know his story's gotten a lot of play here lately. The dentist, a former Oakmont caddy, so he will hit the opening tee shot at a crisp 6:45 a.m. tomorrow morning. I did love Justin Thomas was tweeting last night about he would like for a higher handicap, like a 5 handicap, 10 handicap, even 18 handicap, to go play Oakmont on the Monday morning after the U.S. Open.
Cool.
I think that is a wonderful idea. I think we need to tap into this more. This needs to be the new age of sports. We need average human beings competing in these sorts of atmospheres. I'm picturing, boom, I don't know, myself, James Boyd in the 100-meter dash when the Olympics roll around in 2028. After Mark Dighton's speeding ticket, maybe Mark Dighton in the 2026 Indy 500, to see if you can kind of test your will. Did you see what I did on State Road 37 in Bloomington?
Yeah.
Woo. Move out of the way,
Mark,
Scott McLaughlin.
I trust you in my 2-seater.
I dominated I-69.
So there you go.
Until you got pulled over.
Yeah. I was making good time.
I want more of this. So I love that from Justin Thomas.
I think if you're a high handicapper or even a mid handicapper and you get a chance to play a course like that, like the number one rule, Kevin, is take 0 chances. Like if you're stuck in the rough, just do what you got to do to get it right back onto the short grass and try to go from there, because you can make you can make a 5 on a par 4 a 9 really quickly.
So you shot a very respectable 43 yesterday at Holiday Farms. What do you think let's say you're a 7 handicap. What do you think you would shoot at Oakmont?
If I was playing my absolute best, I would be happy to break 90. Because I've seen
I don't
set
think
up
you would shoot
courses
190
before.
from Oakmont
Maybe not
in the back tees.
But I mean, you again, my philosophy would be don't go outside yourself at all. Everything controlled. Even if you're giving up distance 20, 30 yards, just put it in the fairway, play for the par and the bogey, and move on.
That sounds very easier said than done.
I know it does, but that's the plan.
I need
going
that
in.
type of confidence going into game 3 from a pacer. Okay, that's what you need in your Wednesday morning.
I did when I was playing fairly well. I did from the tips the week after Harbortown. I did shoot an 86 there.
Look at this.
We
Not
have
too
a
bad.
comment from our
Not too
YouTube chat. Mr. Charles says, no, the show has started and there's been a commercial. It's too late for the jersey.
No, it's not.
So
It's
are you
not.
going to go with the people, the fans, or are you going to
That's a
go
fan
rogue?
and a wonderful person. I'm glad he checked in. So I don't know. Maybe that's the poll between now and 8 o'clock. Is it too late to put the jersey on?
Yeah, put a timer on it, Mark.
All right. One way or the other. We'll find out next. It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, Mark Dykton, still licking his wounds from that citation the other day. Joining us here this morning on Game Day. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Happy game day, everybody. If you're just joining us, thanks so much for being a part of the Fan Morning Show. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, I'm Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton here as well. The guys were out at West 56th yesterday to talk to the Irsay women, who are now in charge of the Indianapolis Colts. We'll hear about that a little bit later on. But also, for those who never get a chance to hear in the 8 o'clock hour because they're already at work and they have to get going, and you're in the car right now in the 7 o'clock hour, we thought we'd let you hear just a little bit of Rick Carlisle and what he had to say yesterday on the show when he joined us, as he does every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Here's some of the guys' conversation with the head coach heading into Game 3 tonight at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and he talked what here are we starting off with, Mark Dykton?
Kevin asked him about his comment in the postgame about being too reactive to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and this was his response.
Well, slow starts mean that you're behind, and so you gotta try to get back into the game and all that kind of stuff. And so, look, we haven't played well enough. We were fortunate that we've won one of the 2 games, but I think we've been outscored in 7 out of 8 quarters, and so we got to do better.
Rick, when you look at Tyrese, who obviously always is going to be scrutinized or criticized or whatever, given his status on the team and his status in the league, how do you grade his performances when it comes to aggression and things of that nature?
Well, it just depends on the game. I mean, I thought Game 6 against New York was one of his best games as a pacer and one of his best games probably as a player in the league, because it was just an approach that was all about aggression and process. And then he put himself in a position as the game got into the fourth quarter to continue to be aggressive, and he just found ways to attack and get other guys shots and get the ball in the basket. So, as far as scrutiny and all that other stuff, I mean, this time of year, if you want noise, you can find it anywhere. We've got to selectively avoid, the noise and concentrate on what's important internally, which is the energy that we spend on each other. And, we've got a very, very difficult opponent here that we need to focus the most on.
Rick, when you look at the fourth quarter from Tyrese the other day in Game 2, are there things you can look at and say, okay, this is maybe what we can carry into Game 3, or how much stock do you put into the game-to-game differences that can occur in a series?
Yeah, you look at everything, but this question is a good example of how everything is analyzed and overanalyzed in a series. Well, first of all, in a playoff series, but now you're talking about a championship series, so there's even more. Looking at every little thing, because every game, with the exception of one, is a 2-day break in between. So there's just all this time to analyze and reanalyze and overanalyze, and we got to make sure that we're keeping things as simple as possible in terms of what's best for us.
You mentioned points in the paint. Those numbers in Game 1 and 2 pretty low compared to where your average was during the regular season and even the postseason here. What has that told you about what you guys are getting or probably not getting offensively?
Well, it's obvious that we're up against a unique opponent that was historically great in this area. Not only have they taken the paint away, but they've also forced turnovers, at a historically high rate. I think that in the playoffs this year, somebody mentioned this stat to me. I don't know if this is exactly true, but they're generating 24 points off turnovers per game in the playoffs. So that's an enormous amount. And so you do that. You give up those kinds of points in the paint by turning the ball over. You're going to certainly compromise your ability to get the ball into the paint. So, look, a lot of things need to go better for us to get our points in the paint number up. We certainly are glad to be coming home, but that's no guarantee of anything because this team's been wiping people out on the road all year. So a lot of work to do, a lot of things to keep looking at. But as you mentioned, overanalyzation is, can be a detriment.
Some of what Rick Carlisle had to say, getting ready for Game 3. That was yesterday here on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. That's a guy that sounds like he just wants to get back to work and get ready for Game 3 and try to forget everything that happened in Game 2. I don't know.
Well, yeah, a lot of these games so far, it's only been 2 of them, but a lot of parts in these games you want to forget because you haven't played your best basketball. So we'll see how they adjust. I don't think it's, to push back a little, I don't think it's an overanalyzation to say, hey, Tyrese has struggled throughout this series. Is there something you can do differently? Obviously, he loves to tell us, not going to tell you anything tactical on air, which is smart from a coach, but I would expect something to look a little bit different tonight because your approach is having Tyrese bring the ball up, initiate the offense, and do the things that he's done against other teams does not work against this team with this amount of defenders.
I think there's a lot of things you can point to with Ty right now, and okay, he's not been at his normal level against the Thunder. I want to make it very clear. I know he's not some live at the foul line guy. That's really never been his game. He only averages 3 free throws a game. That's a pretty small number for how elite of a scorer he is. But if you look, guys, at the 4 games against the Thunder this season, I mentioned this in the break on the sports update. Tyrese Haliburton has shot 2 free throws in 135 minutes against the Thunder this year. 2 free throws.
That's actually wild.
In 100.
You sound like Scotty right now.
35 minutes of basketball. And again, he doesn't live at the foul line. But if you just go off his average, he averages 3 a game. So if you do the math, that's 4 games, 3 free throws per game. He should be at 12. That would be his average. And I mean, I don't want to speak for you two, but I don't sit here and I'm saying, man, he deserves a better whistle. Like I don't. There's not many times I've felt that. Obviously I've watched these 2 playoff games much more intently than I did the regular season games, but I think that is just another indicator of you need more. And as I've said all week long, I don't think it's all a lack of aggression. Game 5 to Game 6 of the Knicks series, I thought that was simply just, hey, you need to assert yourself more. You need to be more of the aggressor. I get that you're an unselfish player, but when you're that unselfish, you end up being selfish for your team. Yeah, I don't think we're in the same boat here leading into Game 3. And I found it interesting that, James, he brought up, to your question, Game 6 of the Knicks series, Mark Dagnall brought that up yesterday as well. If you go back to that Saturday night against the Knicks, the clinching game, and if you remember that, the Pacers were only up 4 at half, and they blew it open there in the second half. I was struck in the first 2 minutes of that game at their level of aggression. I thought they were uber aggressive in coming back home after losing Game 5 and Game 6. Dagnall pointed that out very early yesterday in his press conference of, I have warned our guys that when they returned home in that Knicks series, they found another level. We need to fully expect that coming up tomorrow night, and that, of course, being tonight, and we'll see how that happens.
I want to go back to what you're talking about with the lack of free throws for Tyrese Haliburton. It also goes back to what you were talking about yesterday, KB, of getting 2 feet into the paint. He just does not attack the rim very often. He certainly hasn't done it in this series. In the NBA, you attack the rim, you get free throws. He just doesn't attack the rim all that often now.
And again, like free throws to me, yes, it's another indicator of the lack of getting downhill, and it's a credit to the Thunder. I mean, Rick said it yesterday, I think it was either with us or maybe in his media session, of they just have more of these defenders to throw at you. I mean, that's probably the simplest way to put it. There's just more of these wing defenders. So now the extra day off, getting Tyrese potentially off the ball, we'll see exactly where he's at health-wise. But boy, they don't make him much bigger than this. One of the biggest games in franchise history we're about to witness tonight inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Well, looking forward to it. And, of course, you'll hear it live right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. We got you covered all day long from Jake at noon. JMV is going to be at the pub downtown beginning at 3. He's going to take you right up until 8 o'clock when Pat Boylan takes over with the network pregame. And then Mark Boyle and Eddie Gill will have the play-by-play for you beginning at 8:30. And that place is going to be rocking tonight, James. as much as we saw it rocking in Game 6 against the Knicks, I expect another level out of the fans tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, you get a chance to be in the building for something like this. That is a dream come true for 99% of the sports fans. So I'm excited for it myself, just from a coverage standpoint. I do expect this to be the loudest environment I've been in for a basketball game. So we'll see if the Pacers can kind of match that energy they get from the crowd.
Do we decide whether they can put the jersey on or not?
What's the poll say?
What do we have, Mark? What's going on?
I forgot to put it out.
Oh, my goodness.
You forgot to go get it anyway.
No,
he's got it. He's got it hanging like it's
you did.
like it's a shrine right now.
You don't have it on though, huh?
Because I'm waiting for the results of the poll.
I don't know,
here.
man.
I'm going to be honest. When I looked to my
feels like-
right and saw the jersey hanging there, just sitting on a chair, I thought someone had passed. And
Yeah, it's a shrine.
Honoring that person.
What are you saying?
No.
I got very nervous.
It's got my
So
name
I,
on the back.
I started sweating. I was
Yeah,
like, did
I
I
don't
miss
know.
something
I feel
here?
like this opportunity right now. This is bad juju. I'm not feeling good about
No,
this.
I feel good. I think you got to sit in the same chair. I think you got to pace the same way. I think you got to wear the same thing.
But is the time element a factor?
doesn't
Let's ask
matter.
the Twitter sphere. They're always right.
Where was it in game
We're still
2?
here, huh? I didn't wear it in Game 2.
He was picking and choosing his battles.
I had it upstairs in my office for Game 2. I was home for the weekend.
Now, just to clarify something you said a few minutes ago, you said that you would probably shoot around
No,
90
I just watched
Oakmont.
again, and I just watched again some of
Rory
the stuff they're doing.
McIlroy said
I
here
say
the other day.
not even 105 now. I'm saying.
Well, I think I said
Push it
not-
higher.
I said
You were
north
right.
of 190, I believe is what I said.
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy, in his practice round last week at Oakmont, I birdied the last 2 holes to shoot 81.
Wow. Yeah, I got no shot.
So
I saw
so
I saw
you
some
giving
video
Rory
again.
9 shots
No,
is a
no,
bet that I think would fund Mark and my children all through college.
I was
So-
going to bring it up actually because I was watching. I can see the screen right here through my little computers, and they were showing again that they were dropping golf balls and letting it roll, and they were showing the rough again. And I thought, you're nuts. There's no way I'm getting anywhere near.
I'm scoring 20 in a finals game. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
James Boyd, your biggest. Let's go football takeaway.
And I was going back 20 years when I was actually playing every day too. I was thinking about that.
Important clarifications.
Yes.
James Boyd, your biggest football takeaway from Carlisle Irsay Gordon yesterday.
Nobody is going to get a gap year. That was kind of my takeaway was, this isn't my father passed. We'll kind of ease our way into this. This was Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, do your jobs. Anthony Richardson, do your job. Like, we believe in you. They did say that. Carlisle Irsay Gordon did say that at the end of her statements. Hey, we believe you can get this done. But I did not get the impression of nobody there has this long leash of you can just kind of continue what you've been doing and expect the same results of you staying here, staying employed, staying tenured, whatever the case may be.
Let's go ahead and play that clip. This was from Carlisle Irsay Gordon, again, the principal owner. I think it's fair to call her the lead voice of the 3
That's
daughters in terms of being the decision maker. She's been with the organization a long time and has been pretty much running the business side for, I'd say, the better part of the last decade or so. Here was her yesterday when asked about the state of the football side of the building.
I can't answer that question right now. I don't know. I mean, I think that relationship is really important. And I think that's why, in a lot of ways, as I've been more involved over on the football side in the last 8 to 10 years, I think it's like in a marital argument, right? It's like it takes 2 to tango, and I think they have a great relationship. I can tell you we've had situations where we've had that scenario. That wasn't the case. And they work really well together. They communicate really well together. They don't always agree, but as Keelan was saying, even among the 3 of us, they talk about it, and they each have their areas that they focus on, and I think they respect and trust each other, and we feel really fortunate to have that kind of dynamic.
Apologies on that. That was not the answer that I was looking for there. That's on me. I probably should have cut the exact answer. That question was in reference to, are they tied at the hip? And I asked that question. I probably should have worded it a little bit better. I think Carly interpreted it as, are they cohesive together? Are they like meshing together? Whereas, I meant a little bit more of,
if one goes, does the other go?
Correct. So again, I probably should ask that. But James, basically to summarize her answer in regards to Chris and Shane, I think she did we expect a higher standard. We believe in them. We expect she did kind of that little, song and dance, if you will, of, hey, they need to be better at their jobs, but we also sit here and, believe in them. I think on June 10th, for a leader of the organization business, I thought the answer was perfectly acceptable on the state of the football side of it because, and again, the last times we've heard from Jim Irsay, those comments have been, we have a blue chip GM. We think he's Don Shula. Michael Jordan misses shots. The hyperbole has been through the roof. We got none of that in regards to Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen yesterday.
No. I mean, I can read the quote here directly from Carlisle Irsay Gordon. She said, as my dad said before he passed, Chris and Shane know they have things they need to fix. We talked about not micromanaging people, but also we have a standard here, and it hasn't been good enough. And when she said that, I kind of sat up in my chair like, oh, she means business. And so this doesn't mean like you're out. I believe Mike Chappell, the dean, might have followed up with her and said, hey, is this a, win or you're out type of season? And she was like, I don't have a crystal ball here. But this certainly was not, to your point, Kevin, about the difference between father and daughter. This was not a lot of the same hyperbolic, very supportive, loving statements. This was, we respect what you've done, but it isn't what we're used to and what we're, want to get back to when it comes to just their winning ways.
People have asked, what do you think will be different, under this era? And I...
Less tweeting, she said.
Yeah, she did that.
Got a kick out of that.
You can blame Kaylin, the youngest daughter, for getting Jim as hooked on Twitter as he was.
He used to tweet a lot of money away to people, though, too.
I think they meant more of like the,
Yeah, I know.
Team decisions. But yes, a lot of the fans were like, don't stop the giveaways. And so I think they would probably keep that up.
I don't think you'll see a lot of emotional decision-making. Is probably how I would summarize. And I think later in the Irsay tenure, you had a lot of that, of the emotional decision-making. And I would just say maybe emotional comments publicly. Like, to me, when you hear the Ballard hyperbole that you constantly heard year 6, 7, 8 into the 10-year when there was no evidence on the resume to back that, I think so much of that stemmed from Jim's opening press conference with Chris Ballard, calling him the greatest GM hire of the 21st century. It's him wanting that to be right. And I don't think you'll have, in regards to Ballard and Steichen specifically, I don't think Carly will have that sort of, I guess, ego, for lack of a better term, in deciding that resume.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'll see the emotional sort of decision. I think she's a big Chris Ballard fan, let me be clear. But I don't sit here and think these two are just going to get off, whatever, scot-free if you don't have some sort of success this season.
Well, it sounded to me like she told them both, hey, it's got to be better. Let's go.
Well, that's exactly what she said. Yeah. That's, no need to paraphrase. That's exactly what she said. And another thing that stood out to me, too, was hearing from Kaylin, and she was saying that her father really prepped them for those tough decisions because she used a phrase at the end of the press conference, near the end of the press conference, about being lonely at the top. And she was like, you're going to be friends with these people. You're going to respect these people. You're going to love these people if you have a good organization. But when standards aren't met, when the winning isn't there, then you probably have to make tough decisions, what comes with letting people go or moving on from somebody or, bringing somebody else on. So it is something that I don't think is necessarily can be overstated about how hard that decision-making is. And she did say the good thing about those three is that unlike Jim, who he worked with others, obviously Pete Ward, Chris Ballard, but she was saying for ownership purposes, there's three of us where we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other.
And when you heard from the three of them, we had kind of outlined the job descriptions as we had been presented them a couple of days ago. What did you get from their individual roles as they sat up there yesterday?
I mean, this is me, I guess, educating or educatedly guessing, which I know is not a word. I would say Carly will run the show. Definitely the football side of it. I would say Kaylin will be a spearheader in the philanthropic side of things, and Casey will, based off how it's been, Casey would, I guess, be a little bit like third in the pecking order, if you will. That is my...
A lot of marketing and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Casey just hasn't been as heavily involved as, as the other two. I'm sure there'll be a sounding board, all three of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will certainly bounce ideas off of each other. They're all very close. And that's what I think is unique about this situation. And, I think a lot of fans, we can play a little bit later, her answer she gave to, rocking a headset on the sidelines on game days. I thought that answer was pretty interesting. And Jeff, you've been a part of other markets where different ownerships or ownership groups have taken over, and they don't have a history in that specific sport. Again, they're buying it more for a hobby, or they're buying it just because, it kind of sounds cool to do. That's not this case.
This is the family business.
I mean, this is the business.
Yeah.
And all three have lived here in this market for north of 90% of their lives. In Carly's case especially, and I would say Kaylin a little bit, but Carly definitely. I mean, she has been inside of that building. I mean, James, I would say on the days we are there, let's say we're there, 100 days out of the year. I don't know, maybe that's too much. 80 days out of the year. That car of hers, I walk right by it 95% of the days. I mean, she is there pretty much every single day. Like, we are there, and you do see her out at practice a whole lot. And
she's out there yesterday.
That is at least an ability that she's trying to absorb and learn. And so if you have a new ownership group taking over, I think I'd feel more comforted having that aspect of a background versus, hey, here is David Tepper flying in to own the Carolina Panthers, and he's got no history in the NFL. Like, to me, I'd rather have history than...
He had been a minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers for a few years.
But that's the Rooney family.
It's totally different.
You can't compare the Teppers to the Irsays.
I would make the argument more the Walton family coming in to buy the Denver Broncos out of nowhere.
Right. So that's where I think it is a little bit different. And again, they're still obviously going to have to prove themselves, and it's different making the call on a GM on a head coach hire versus their dad obviously had the final say in previous regimes. But that aspect of it, there is someone that has, spent a lot of hours behind the scenes in trying to learn, absorb, and has made a lot of decisions organizationally. Now they just have to make the biggest decisions on the football side of it as well.
And the bigger thing, too, for a lot of people is they made it sound very clear that this football team's not going anywhere. These are the Indianapolis Colts, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was never a question, and that was certainly put to bed yesterday when they spoke to us. This was supposed to be a family legacy, and I would imagine, when the time comes, years and years and years from now, the Irsay daughters will pass it down to their children because they want to keep things in the family. So this was not an opportunity for anybody to come in and kind of sink their teeth in to a new investment or a new ownership group. This ain't that.
All right. Coming up in a moment.
Get dressed in that jersey, by the way. People are calling and saying, put the jersey on.
Yes.
See, there we go.
Mark Allen in our YouTube chat. Put the jersey on, Jeff. What are you waiting for?
If you wore it once and they won, you wear it every single game here and
there
now.
You go.
I was ready to go, and you were the one that's like, oh, no, too late.
I thought it was too late.
Put it on.
There we go.
All right.
Take the tag off. Will you keep the jersey? No. Take the tag off.
No, because it goes mostly on
the tag on.
I
thought he was putting the golf shirt on to shoot 90 at Oakmont.
No, there's no shooting 90 at Oakmont unless it's the front nine.
Void that return policy.
All right, there we go. Jersey is on. Game 3 is set. A win guaranteed right here. Stephen Holder's going to stop by and give us his thoughts on the new ownership group. Really, it's the family keeping the Colts in the ownership group there. We'll talk about it next to 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Everybody fired up today. It's game day as the Indiana Pacers get ready to go for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. I just love saying the Indiana Pacers and the NBA Finals, Kevin Bowen. I hope we get a lot more of that for the next several years. I like it.
25 years ago today was the first time they ever hosted a NBA Finals game. That'd be Game 3 of the Lakers series, and we'll try to have the same winning success tonight.
A lot to talk about there. A lot to talk about with the Indianapolis Colts also. Stephen Holder joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline from ESPN to tell us a little bit about how things looked from his perspective yesterday. Good morning, Stephen Holder. Are you all fired up about the Pacers as well?
Yeah, I'm ready to do it, man. Let's see how this goes. I think this might be the biggest game of the series.
This might be the biggest game the Pacers have played in 25 years, Kevin. Is that fair to say?
I mean,
yeah, probably since Game 6 of the Knicks series. Yes.
It's almost like it's like something they haven't done in 25 years. Right?
Oh, my goodness. So we're all thinking about the Pacers today, but we also had a lot to talk about over with the Colts yesterday as the three Irsay daughters meet with the media for the first time. What was your big takeaway from what you heard from the three of them yesterday?
I thought that primarily they confirmed what I had been told about them and what I had been told to expect from them, which is that they are very serious and they are not just rich kids who grew up to run dad's business. You know, they are very rich, okay, to be clear, but but this is for them. It's not about that. I mean, this is their life. This is their life. And I thought Carly Irsay, she might have taken a shot at some other owners without realizing it, but she said at one point, you know, we were not a family that had a hedge fund and just kind of fell into owning a football team. She's like, this is what we do. This is our life, and this is very important to us. And I think that matters. That does matter. And because there is a different generation of NFL ownership these days that maybe doesn't have the same perspective and the same longevity in the league, and they do. And so it's a bigger reflection on them than it is maybe for other owners who are in different situations. So I'll just end by saying I think the seriousness that they're taking this with, I think tells me how they will govern themselves in this job.
Steven, you had a tweet earlier in the week saying that you expect their management style to be different than their father's. In what ways do you think it'll be different?
Yeah, I think for one, Jim Irsay, I think he governed with his gut a lot of the time, which is okay if you have good instincts, and I think he did generally. The Jeff Hire Saturday notwithstanding, we'll forgive him for that. We'll let bygones be bygones. He lived a good life, but I think with his daughters, they're going to be more pragmatic. They're going to be more, I don't know the word. I guess they're going to run this with their heads. And I think Carly Irsay said it best. I think Kaylin Jackson also mentioned, like, we're running a business, and this is important to us. The word business came up like multiple times. And I think that's important because they see it as a business. Jim Irsay saw it as a business, certainly, but with him, it was also sort of it's a family, right? It's, we're here because we love football, and they do too. Okay, I'm not glossing over any of that. I think they really do. They were raised in football. It's all they know. So I don't want to pretend as if this is just about money or anything like that. No, they want to win, and they want to do it with professionalism, and they want to do it with structure and all of those things. And I think Jim Irsay was okay with breaking with traditions and conventions and all those things if he felt like it was the right thing to do. They're going to be a little bit more by the book, I think, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't.
Steven, when we were sitting in the Mike Chappell media room yesterday, I know he'll appreciate that shout out. I kind of sat up when Carly talked about Shane and Chris. And so when she says they know they have things to fix, and she was actually saying that in reference to her father as well, kind of reminding her like, hey, we aren't where we're supposed to be. What was your reaction to just how blunt she was about their tenures so far?
to me, I think you have to assume that is an extension of how she talks behind closed doors. That was the thing that I thought about. Number one, yes, I agree. That was, I thought, pretty straightforward. She didn't mince words. She also said, look, we think that they are capable of turning it around, and they're the guys to do it.
Yep.
So it's a halfway sort of comment, sort of a backhanded compliment, but they're definitely on notice, right? There's no question about that. And I would say this, what other people have said to me about the Irsay daughters, Carly in particular, was things like, don't underestimate her. And I don't know if people feel the need to say that because they're women. Probably, that might be part of it. Let's be honest, right? I mean, people do have preconceived notions sometimes when it comes to powerful women. And what I was told by multiple people is listen, she's not to be messed with. She's here to get the job done, and this is very serious to her. And I thought that came through in talking to her, and that comment, I thought, just reinforced it for me. So I think everybody in that building better be sure that they are doing everything they can to help the Colts win.
And Stephen, remind us too, this is not a person that is a stranger to sitting in that chair. She is, because of circumstance, had to kind of do this before on a day-to-day basis, correct?
Well, that's true. And in 2014, after her father had his driving under the influence arrest, he was suspended for quite a few months, actually, by the NFL, by Roger Goodell. I think he missed the first 6 games of that season, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, look, was he completely detached from the team? I don't know. But in terms of day-to-day running the team, she ran the team. And I would say, even in recent years, the fact of the matter is, this is not shade at Jim Irsay at all. I would never do that. But the fact remains, that man was not around. He just was not. He wasn't in the building. He wasn't in the state of Indiana quite often, okay? So just to give people the context, he was not present. And that doesn't make him different from a lot of owners, okay? Stephen Ross owns the Dolphins. He doesn't even live in Miami. He never has. He lives in New York, right? So that's common. But what I think matters here is that Carly Irsay does live here and is in that building, as Kevin and James know. We see her, when she's there. Her truck is parked there right in the front, and when she's in the building. She's there every freaking day. She works a 9 to 5 in that office and knows everything that's happening under her purview. And I think that really is important if you're going to run the business.
Stephen Holder, ESPN.com, with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Shifting gears to the big storyline here. Exiting the spring off-season program. Colts will have a minicamp practice today and tomorrow, then nothing until July 22nd at Grand Park. I found myself with this Anthony Richardson news, Stephen. Again, we know at this point, even after going to L.A. to see his doctor, he apparently will not need surgery, and it's just rest. I find it still on high alert, and I just think this is awful news for Richardson. Borderline crippling news for where he's at in regards to the roster, the depth chart, his standing with the franchise. Am I making too much of it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wrote a story that published yesterday on ESPN.com trying in so many words to say the same thing without being too direct, because things can change, certainly. So you have to leave some wiggle room here. But I think you have to look at the circumstances. I think for him, the timing could not be worse. And I think I was talking to James and we were talking about this, I think, on your podcast, right? Like, every time he's gotten hurt, it's been at the most inopportune time or just poor timing generally, right?
Yeah.
You can go back to the Houston game, his rookie year. He comes out like gangbusters, and then he gets the concussion at the end of the first half. Same thing happened against Pittsburgh, where he had the oblique injury last year. That was maybe the best quarter of football we've seen Anthony Richardson play. And then, boom, he's out. And then last season, he gets a little bit of momentum at the end of the year. The 2 come from behind wins, and then a couple games later, boom, he's got the back issue. He misses the last 2 games. every time he takes a step forward, and here I would say the step forward was he had a good offseason. He was healthy. He, by all accounts, looked pretty good in camp, in the spring camp. And then, boom, here we are again. So he just can't get any traction. And that also means that the coaches can't get any traction when it comes to believing in him and trusting him. And that's just a reality right now. I mean, in their minds, there is a psychological thing here. Okay, when you have an alternative, and they have Daniel Jones. For whatever you think about Daniel Jones, he's available. And Anthony Richardson often is not.
Stephen Holder, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate that. One more quick thing. We see all these people not being happy with playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, and it feels like they're kind of ignoring the defensive side of the football. And, of course, Lou Anarumo, the former defensive coordinator for the Bengals, is now the DC for the Colts. Any chance that maybe one of those guys ends up in a Colts uniform before it's all said and done?
Well, I think the guy to keep an eye on is the guy they cut this week, the linebacker, Pratt.
Yeah.
That's a guy to keep an eye on because, number one, the Colts have like 4 linebackers, right? Or and really only one who's ever played any substantial football, okay? And that's Zaire Franklin, who, by the way, is not participating because he's hurt and won't be until training camp. So I don't have great confidence about the linebacker spot right now. If you're Chris Ballard and you're sitting there, I mean, are you sleeping okay at night? I don't know. And I think that he has this tendency, Chris Ballard, to every offseason kind of leave one position in a lurch where it's like, all right, are we really feeling good about this? You know, whether it's defensive back last year or, you know, in years past, maybe the offensive line in terms of depth, what have you. And I think this year the potential candidate for that spot is linebacker. Like, you're one injury away from being in an absolute disaster. So I would say that's a spot they need to look at, and he is available. But, yes, you're right. Plenty of Bengals who are not quite thrilled with their situation right now.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have fun watching the game tonight, and we'll run into you very soon, I'm sure.
All right. See you guys soon.
ESPN.com. Stephen Holder joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. I thought about it again a little bit yesterday as I was driving back up north to home. They got to bring one more linebacker in, and there's a guy that understands a system that you're about to run. Doesn't make sense?
Yeah, my only thing is he's a starter. So if he were to come and join this team, what would be his role? I believe he's been like a middle linebacker. He kind of overlaps with Zaire Franklin. So how would he fit? I know it looks good on paper, but does it work in the scheme and things like that? But to your point, Jeff, kick the tires at least. And one real last quick thing on the ownership. The players, and one in particular, Stephon Gilmore, gave a shout-out to Carlisle Irsay online on Twitter, I believe, yesterday or the day before when they announced the official change, and he was just saying she's the real deal. They're in good hands. EJ Speed spoke highly of her as well. So these players do really respect these women. I know some people can be like, oh, what do they know? They know more than us. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to play that headset audio coming up here in a little bit. I thought that answer was an interesting one because optically I think a lot of people have been I don't know, like, wait, what? The owner's on the sideline? She's wearing a headset? Is she calling the plays? But I thought she was definitely ready for that question, to say the least. I thought her answer was an interesting one. One thing to note from Colts veteran minicamp, and again, we'll be out there today and tomorrow. Tomorrow's usually a very abbreviated practice before they head to summer vacation for a month plus. I asked Joel Erickson when he joined the show yesterday, do you think the Colts will sign a veteran quarterback? If you were playing a game tomorrow, Daniel Jones would be your starter, and then Riley Leonard would be your backup. And, Riley Leonard, I get why you're trying to bet on him in the 6th round. He has a lot of traits that you really, really like in a player, like as a tough character guy, as a guy that I think would be, kind of the ultimate pro. You want him to marry your daughter, et cetera, et cetera. The work ethic, I think, is there. But he is incredibly raw as a passer. I mean, James, you saw it on a couple occasions yesterday. Leonard airmailing, guys. So you want that guy to be your backup week 1? If the Anthony Richardson situation plays out to be worst case scenario. So yesterday we go out there to Colts practice, and one of their tryout guys, and, for minicamp you get usually about half a dozen veteran tryout guys. I think they have 8 of them in this year's minicamp. One of them is Desmond Ridder, who I think for most football fans that name will resonate. Former 3rd-round pick out of Cincinnati. He was actually the second quarterback taken in that draft class. Kenny Pickett, talk about a bad quarterback draft class. Kenny Pickett went in round 1, and then Ritter was the round 3 quarterback, the quarterback to Alec Pierce, of course, at Cincinnati. I'd say it's safe to say that Ritter's NFL career at this point has not been good, and the fact that he wasn't even on a 90-man roster when teams have 3 and 4 quarterbacks on their roster right now tells you a whole lot. But nonetheless, James Boyd, veteran quarterback they are trying out. To keep Ritter, they would have to cut somebody from their 90-man roster, but that at least caught my attention yesterday. I view it as potential backup insurance if this Anthony Richardson right shoulder thing starts to go awry.
So you're saying the 4 quarterbacks are Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, Riley Leonard, and Desmond Ritter.
Jason Bean is the 4th,
okay, that's right.
And then Desmond Ritter is the tryout. What did you make, I guess, of Ritter out there?
Well, one, he looked fine. I don't think it was something where I'm like, wow, this guy looks great. It looks horrible. He looked like an average quarterback to me, which is what he's kind of been throughout his career. I do know he has, I believe, 17 starts in his career. Started 1 game last year for the Raiders. I believe he started, 15 or 16 before that with the Falcons, kind of up and down throughout his career. But if you're looking for someone who can, perhaps be a spot starter for you, I don't think that's a terribly bad option. He is mobile and things like that. So I know sometimes fans, and I get like this as well as a writer, you're like, man, you look at all the flaws in a player, but then you realize, okay, for what you're asking him to do at this point in the season and what you're requiring him for your team, he's not a bad option for that role. Like if he's your, break glass in case of emergency quarterback, I don't feel like that's a bad option.
And I just think we got to keep an eye on this because let's say Richardson is not going to throw, for the first 2 weeks of camp. Again, you've got to prepare for worst case scenario. I mean, we're talking about a right shoulder injury, and Richardson's.
Well, he hasn't given you a reason for the best case scenario throughout his career.
Arguably, his biggest flaw has been availability, and so you have to, I think, kind of cover your what with this. So I'll be curious to see A, if they keep Ritter around, or B, once we get to Grand Park, if they start to explore some of these other veteran quarterback names. I get that none of them make you happy. I get that they're all met with skepticism, but this is the reality of the Colts quarterback room. And to me, Leonard needs a redshirt year. Leonard does not need I'm 1 play away from going into an NFL game 2025 season.
All right, more on the Colts a little bit later on. Right now, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Everybody knows it. It's game day. The Indiana Pacers back on the floor tonight. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, 8:30 tip for the NBA Finals matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are all tied up at 1 game apiece. Got to get Tyrese Haliburton going a little bit more for the postseason. He's averaged almost 19 points and 9 assists per game. A little bit less than that here in the finals. Pascal Siakam, 20 points and 7 rebounds so far during the postseason. But they got to find a way, Kevin Bowen, to at least slow down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's averaging almost 33 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds a game.
Yeah, I don't even pay attention to those postseason stats. I think we got to live in Thunder World right now, and Thunder World has not been kind to Haliburton or Siakam. Siakam was 3 of 11 in Game 2, so you need those two to certainly improve on their star status in this series. For those that missed it, Tyrese Haliburton did participate yesterday in practice. Not on the injury report, but he admitted, and Rick Carlisle admitted, lower left leg injury, some discomfort there. The expectation should be fine. Again, not on the injury report. Did do some light shooting when we were out there for practice yesterday. Had that kinesio tape on the lower left leg, so perhaps something just to keep an eye on here coming up tonight. 8:30, 5.5-point underdog, the Indiana Pacers.
James Boyd, the technical explanation from Tyrese was, quote, a lower body thing, unquote.
Yeah, I mean, it's the finals. You got to play. And I just got a kick out of Kevin's reference, Thunderworld. I felt like we were in a Marvel movie with Thor. Thunderworld.
I always think of the
Thunderdome, the old Mad Max movies.
I was thinking of the Imagine Dragons song Thunder, which I think is a great song, but I guess we're probably not allowed to play that.
Mark will find that somewhere, right?
That's the opponent.
Yeah,
if Mark got transferred to OKC radio, he'd be playing that a lot.
No, you can play that, but then you got to have the record scratch that stops it in between.
You'll be playing that, Thunderstruck by AC/DC, lots of...
Sure.
I can see that brain working
all
already.
Kinds of Storm references, right. I'm sure.
The Garth Brooks Thunder Rolls, right? Stuff like that. But we're gonna put the record scratch in all of that and just stop it right there, because it's Pacers. This is a Pacers day. They're going to win tonight. I'm telling you right now.
They better be. You put the jersey on.
I know,
albeit late. And
no,
with
it
the
was
tags
not
on.
late. Now, see, you can't qualify like that.
Somebody said, "Why you got to go?"
Exactly the way it was the other day.
Oh, yeah, we did have a request.
They said no sleeves.
No
too.
sleeves.
They said, "What are you doing?"
No.
I would agree on that. That's a must.
Yeah.
I wore it over a shirt the other day.
All right.
And then they lost game 2.
No, I didn't wear it for game 2.
I know that. I'm saying you.
I'll give Jeff some grace there. We were not in studio for game 2.
I'm not like Kevin. I am not exposing any type of flesh from the waist up or anywhere else.
I don't know. I've gotten requests to perhaps join Mr. Bowen if the Pacers win the finals. So,
all right.
I don't know. I'm being peer pressured. I've been peer pressured in many years.
With
but
the Speedo?
I'm yeah.
Guys, if they win tonight, tomorrow I buy the Speedo.
Might as well just make it a menage a trois.
I was gonna say,
Jeff gets out there
I said
too.
it just takes 2 wins.
Yeah.
Studio's not big enough. That's all I'm saying.
That's why you're on the circle.
Yeah.
Well, just speaking for myself, it's plenty big enough. Trust me. With what I'm dealing with.
I was gonna say.
Let's talk about the Indiana Fever. We have to. They did not look good last night. They lose at Atlanta 77-58. It's been how long, James, since they've scored so few points?
I'm actually not sure. This was a stat that Kevin brought up in the first hour.
Yes, nearly 3 years. I think it was early July 3 years ago. 57 for those that don't follow the WNBA closely. I mean, that is an extremely low number. I mean, we're used to the Fever scoring. Defense is usually the issue for the Fever, so they could use Caitlin Clark back ASAP.
Yeah, they are still now with 5 games without Caitlin Clark at this point in time. Maybe at home on Saturday against the New York Liberty. We'll see how that goes. Last night, Natasha Howard had 15 points, 10 rebounds. The newcomer, Ari McDonald, had 14. Kelsey Mitchell had 11. Lexi Hull was 0 for 5 and did not score in the game, James Boyd.
Yeah, rough night for her, rough night for them in that third quarter, and it just speaks
that
to
third quarter. It snowballed.
Oh, it was brutal.
It was an avalanche.
Yeah, bad basketball, but I think it just speaks to the level of how different they look without an MVP caliber player in Caitlin Clark.
I honestly didn't think they would have this big of a struggle with as many veterans as they sign in the offseason. I'm surprised how much they've struggled just because Caitlin Clark's not in there.
Yeah.
Well, and if you could point to just their incumbents last night. I mean, Hall, Boston, Mitchell combined 8 for 30. And I just think Clark, James, I'm sure you were getting to it. Clark is just, she's Tyrese Haliburton on steroids in terms of what she means to them as a scorer and a facilitator and a ball handler. Kelsey Mitchell's a great scorer, but she's not even like Nemhard. Where a little bit of the point guard. They had to go out and sign Ari McDonald, who has seemingly been vitally important for them. So that has contributed. And Sophie Cunningham's been out. And you can kind of call her, I don't know, maybe a Matherin type of.
She's a rotational player that they count on.
Right. So that has contributed. 2 and 3 without Caitlin Clark.
All right. We'll move on to the Indianapolis Colts. We were talking about that just a moment ago. But the Irsay daughters taking center stage yesterday and meeting with the media for the first time since they now officially take over as the folks in charge of the franchise, James.
Yeah, this was expected, and I did enjoy hearing from them because I just wondered how different things would be without their father and if they would meet with us, to be honest, because some owners don't. But I thought Carlisle Irsay Gordon took the lead on a lot of the football-related questions, which really piqued my interest, and it sounds like everyone will have to put up or shut up when it comes to this upcoming season.
All right, and Major League
Don't
Baseball.
Look now, but here come the red legs.
There we go. There you go, Kevin.
Have I ever told you I love you?
Yeah, many times, actually.
I feel like Joe Namath and you're Susie Colbert right
You're going
now.
to look into his eyes with the Speedo on and say that tomorrow?
Oh, Lord.
God.
All right. All right.
Buying the Speedo tomorrow. I don't think it'll be overnighted unless one of these people that you have said make Speedos for a living can somehow do that for us.
Call into the show.
I just know that there are people who make clothes in Indianapolis. They can make anything.
Well, you cannot. You have to take the L. As the children say, you got to take the L on this one, Jeff. There's no one out here making Speedos homemade.
I guarantee somebody out there knows somebody who can make
find that person
things.
and have them get the Speedo here before the series is over.
I love you, Mark Dykton.
I think Mark's kind of hot.
Thanks, Kevin.
Oh.
Appreciate that.
Did I say that?
Did I mention the Reds actually won?
Andrew Abbott, incredible yesterday. That was a complete game, 3-hitter, 110 pitches. The last at-bat nearly ended my life. Luckily, it stayed in the ballpark. Reds win. They're the hottest team in baseball. And, Mark, you're a man of integrity today with how well you have done in acknowledging the Reds' outstanding play here of late.
I can put the Cubs win over the Phillies to this side. A complete game in 2025 is
Thank you.
Is a big deal.
Especially on June 10th.
Yeah. 1-0. The Reds got the win yesterday. They scored just enough. Chicago Cubs did win 8-4 over the Philadelphia Phillies, as you mentioned, Mark, and the St. Louis Cardinals dropped one at home to the Toronto Blue Jays 10-9. Indianapolis Indians were at Victory Field last night. They beat the St. Paul Saints 3-2. They will play again at 1:35 today. Is there anything else you men would like to throw in before we head to break here?
Cannot wait for the U.S. Open tomorrow. Jeff Rickard has said he would shoot 90
on the front
at
nine.
Oakmont
on the front
for 18 holes. Rory McIlroy, I believe, said he shot 81 in the practice round there last week. Cannot wait. I need carnage. I need weeping. I need crying. I love the U.S. Open.
Yeah, Jeff does radio out of the kindness of his heart.
Yeah,
because he could be an all-world golfer.
Yes, that's exactly what it would be. I think there were people who witnessed otherwise yesterday, would be my thought.
I feel you, brother.
All right. Coming up in a minute, we will get back to getting ready for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Talk about it next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Driving by the JW Marriott yesterday, and it looks good. Yes, sirs, up there with the NBA Finals. Let's go, James Boyd.
Yeah, there's a lot of Pacers things up. I believe they renamed a couple of the streets, or at least put the little placards up there. I'm excited later today to go by Thomas Bryant Street. My favorite Pacer, as you all know. I enjoy his energy. He's the funniest Pacer on the team. And if I'm a player, I don't care. I'm getting a picture of that for my memories. That is pretty cool.
I walked down Freeman Street yesterday. I'm going to be honest with you. Marcus Freeman and Morgan Freeman were the first two names that popped into my head. I had totally forgotten about Enrique Freeman. And that is, I think that's Pennsylvania. I believe Enrique Freeman Street is. Do you think they try to coordinate that? Do you think they
I
try
don't
to,
know. I think they probably just get him up as quick as possible.
Yeah, like Kevin Bowen to get the alley behind.
Yeah,
Virginia
make sure
Avenue's
Haliburton
garage.
isn't on a random street.
Where's Haliburton Drive? I haven't seen.
I'm not sure, but I'll get a look, a scope of the land later today.
Enrique Freeman, I only remember because he's on the Pacers, but also because we were interviewing his coach, and Enrique Freeman walked by during the interview, so then he put Enrique on the air with us. That was fun.
Yeah, Jeff Gross, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The Indiana native.
Yeah, he's like, hey, come here. I'm talking about you. Get on the air. He's like, oh, okay.
Here's my other question. The better players, do they have the better maintained streets? No potholes for
Oh, no, that's all
for
in
Pascal
Indianapolis.
Siakam and stuff like that? That's what I'm saying. If you're going to name some streets after our Pacers, let's at least make them passable.
Johnny Furphy Boulevard is just a pothole mine
We could dial up the mayor. Seems like he's had a pretty quiet life.
Oh, yeah,
lately.
nothing going on for him, right?
Yeah, we could call him up and see how things are going.
Maybe you can text him, Kevin.
Apparently
he'll text back.
Okay, yeah, I should probably stop there before I get in trouble. I've seen the line hover around 5.5 for tonight. If indeed that number gets to 5.5, maybe even 6, would be the second biggest home underdog the Pacers have been all season. You got to go all the way back to a pre-Halloween game against the Boston Celtics for the last time the Pacers at home have been this underdog. Cavs series, they were an underdog, kind of a similar amount in those home games here, but clearly Vegas still sticking heavily with the Thunder despite home court shifting to Indiana.
Mark, I'm feeling a little Pacers parlay here. I like that 5 points.
Okay.
I like overs for both Haliburton and Siakam.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'll have to find a fourth one to just really spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, you need to let me know what that pays out. $10 pays what?
Well, I kind of looked at it yesterday. I want to say it was several $100s, I think.
Whoa.
Well, if I added the fourth one.
Okay.
Gotta figure out what that fourth is.
Yeah.
I did yesterday. I forgot.
It's
what
like
that
us
fourth
adding
one
the
was.
college basketball teams, Mark, back in February.
I think it was. You know what? The fourth one
We
I
would
had was
lose the
number of
first
assists.
game.
I think I had the over for Haliburton's assist.
What do we call it?
I'll
The
go back
all
and look
Indiana
in there.
parlay?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Let's
That's what
just
we
say
do.
those did not have a great success
Those
rate.
were nasty.
Are we going to see any Larry O'Brien or anything on the court tonight? Do we know what the court
What the hell
looks like?
was that in game 2?
Yeah.
Digitally?
That
Yes.
was
Thrown
lame.
on there?
That was lame.
That
as-
was
that was
that
worse
was
than
me.
having him off at the first place.
That looked like
was-
me, taking some digital class in I don't know, junior high or high school.
I was
and,
gonna say that reminded me of every final I
Trying to
had in my
create a
my
project.
classes in college. Last minute, oh, this is due tomorrow. I'll get this done.
Well, it's like I
Voila!
took a picture of the JW Marriott, and people said the Larry O'Brien trophy got on the JW before it got on the court of the finals. I'm like, that's true.
Oh, I gotta go back and look at the video. I was over there yesterday just briefly, and I don't think I spotted it on the court. Granted, I probably should just look at the video that I tweeted.
Right.
It is weird that they have not done that at all. There's been no references on the court of it outside of all the YouTube TV references and whatnot.
And what I understand is just them being kind of cheap because some fans are like, well, they have all these crazy courts for in-season tournament, but they make those. They pre-make them. And you can't. That's why the sticker has been removed from the floor because players kept slipping on it. But my thing is.
So is that the reason they don't have it because it is a sticker and guys have slipped? Is that what they're saying?
They've slipped, yeah. And I believe Vince Goodwill from Yahoo Sports put a story out. And one of his suggestions was when you get to the conference finals, just start making the courts for all 4 teams. And then whoever advances, you have the courts ready. And yeah, you lose 2 courts or whatever, but the NBA, prints money. So
donate those courts to, some third world country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
I'm looking at the court right now from yesterday. Yeah, it doesn't have. It's got the YouTube TV, branding on the sidelines from an advertising standpoint. But the court, I would say it looks normal.
Yeah, make the games feel big because, in my opinion, that is what the NFL does better than any other league. They make every little thing a spectacle, and we laugh about it, we joke about it, but then we see the numbers and the retention, and that is why they do it. So if you're the NBA, you want to stop being little brother. You're never going to catch the NFL, but treat your big games like a pageantry. Make it, a big theme thing.
Well, we going to have anybody front row or anything tonight? Are we going to get a little, I don't know, what, McAfee on the mic we got in the Knicks series?
Mm-hmm.
You think we'll get any sort of...
I'm sure we'll get some
like Mike Epps
non-Mike Epps division.
Like Mike Epps will pull up. Let me see. I'm not so sure.
Is John Mellencamp going to be keeping tabs on fan conduct?
Well, I don't know.
That might be bad juju.
I was going to say, him and in other corners of the arena.
You know what? I want to see Juju Brent sit courtside with George Hill, his cousin, which he casually revealed to us yesterday at Colts practice. Now, outside of everything else that happened, I know ownership talked, or getting up to Anthony's shoulder, second opinion, but that was like the most random tidbit that was kind of newsworthy to me, and I had to hit him with is this your play cousin or your real cousin? He's like, no, real cousin on my dad's side. I'm like, I wanted him to show me his family tree right there in the moment, and Kevin kind of got on me for, asking maybe one too many questions because he was like, you're gonna ask him, about his bloodline. But I was just curious because I'm like, you said this, and he said he just found out about this not too long ago. So apparently he didn't know, but I guess it just athletic genes runs in that family. So I want Juju Brent's George Hill courtside cousins.
Well, and I felt bad for him. I asked him who his favorite Pacer was, and he took a while before answering it. He felt ashamed to say it. I'm like, man, there's no shame here. Say Ron Artest.
Yeah, I don't think it was that. I think it was
proud.
I'm an Indiana or Indianapolis native, so whoever I say, my family's going to be like, you said the wrong person.
Well,
that
I
was
did
my
preface by
interpretation.
saying non-family member,
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to, name George Hill there. But I think Ron Artest is totally fine.
Yeah, but I could hear like somebody in his family saying, Reggie, really? Reggie's right there. You didn't choose Reggie? I mean, the guy's like 25. So, respect. And also, he's a defensive player. He chose a former defensive player of the year. I respect it.
All right, so here was the parlay I looked at yesterday. It was the over for 228.5. Now this is thinking that the Pacers are going to win. Yes, this is thinking the Pacers are going to win. All right, I think they're going to play their best game of the series tonight. All right, so I took the over 228.5. Aaron Nesmith over 12.5 because I think he's going to have to do that for them to win tonight. The Pacers +5. Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton both to score over 20 points. That a $10 bet will get me $136.
Well, if you think the Pacers going to win, take out the +5 and just put Pacers money line.
That's true.
That's true too.
You'll get much better odds on that.
Yeah, I was just putting one together quickly there, but yes, that's a great idea.
So you're going to say that's actually a good segue. Do the Pacers finally have a 20-point scorer tonight, and do they get 2 like in Jeff's parlay? Because I truly believe if we're looking at the box score at the end of the game,
that's going to have to happen, right?
They're going to have these guys be stars and be better. And I believe Rick Carlisle, after game 2, said that almost verbatim. We need our better players to be better, our best players to kind of lead us. And so I certainly think that they both have to show up. I know a lot of the talk from me personally has been about Tyrese, and it will remain that way because he is the star of this team. But Pascal Siakam, you're the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. You have to show up as well and, give this team just a shot in the arm and really, I believe, a must-win. They have to go out there and win tonight. I believe this team cannot come from behind to win this series. Now, if they prove me wrong and do that, call into the show and tell me that, but I would feel much better about this series moving forward, even if they go back 2-2, but if they win tonight and stay even or ahead.
So I plugged in Jeff's parlay, but I took out the spread and did money line instead.
Yeah.
So if you do that exact same thing, so Pacers money line over 228.5, Siakam and Haliburton 20 points, and then Aaron Nesmith over 12.5.
Yeah.
$10 pays out $181.
Boom, let's go.
Are you locking it in?
I'm going to by the end of the show.
All right. I like this. Jeff has the conviction that Pacers fans and Pacers players must have tonight.
I think we're about 0 for 12 on show parlays over the last 3 or 4 months.
Well, this is Jeff's, so it's not mine, so it'll probably succeed, though.
We'll see what happens. I don't know. You on the craziest one I've ever seen when you were during COVID, guys. He had like a 15-leg parlay with Premier League soccer that he knew nothing about, and it hit.
Through darts.
Lord have mercy. We're talking about the world pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Lord have mercy.
What did you end up? What was the payout on that stupid thing anyway?
Let's just say I can get several more speeding tickets, and it wouldn't hurt me at all.
Wow. Not bad. I remember
that man living right.
I remember there were a lot of diapers being purchased at that point in time.
There were. Yes, there were.
All right, quick timeout. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Also, what the Colts ownership group had to say yesterday. And we'll open up the phone lines the next hour as well. I want you to call your shot here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning and welcome into Game Day at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Fan Morning Show. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. I'm Jeff Rickard. The bet is in and posted, Kevin. Over 228.5. Aaron Nesmith over 12.5 points. Siakam and Haliburton both to score 20 points or more. The Pacers on the money line. I got a profit boost on that at FanDuel as well. $10 bet would get me tonight $242 if that thing pays out. And I think the Pacers are going to play well. So why not?
If all that happens, they certainly would win.
Donuts and beer, you said. You promised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Longs.
My buddy Brett just texted me, said he's got a $20 bet to make $1,200. He calls it the bench revenge. You'd like this one, Mark.
Oh, Lord.
Shepard, 3 or more points. Bryant, 3 or more points.
Ooh.
Matherin, 9 points and 3 rebounds. TJ with 6 points, and TJ with 1 3-ball made. Aaron with 3 threes. 20 to make 1,200 on what he calls the bench revenge.
That is the kind of chaos I like on bets. Like, if you're going to do a parlay, get outlandish with it.
Yeah.
I can tell you he learned from his dad, who is the king of crazy bets.
I feel like that TJ McConnell 3 might sting you.
He's hit one. I feel like has he hit one in each of the first 2 games?
He has, and I feel like this will be the game. Will be like, he plays well, but he doesn't make a 3.
You know, going back to game 2, I thought the game honestly started to get away from the Pacers once that second unit for each team got into the games, and that I think that was what was so frustrating about Sunday was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes to the bench, and that's when the Thunder first built their big lead, and that can't happen away from home. First off, I don't think it can happen at all in the series, but it certainly can't happen away from home. You can't have their others outplay your others. You need what did Gary call it? The bench revenge. Yeah.
Brett called it bench revenge. Yeah.
Brent, you can't have that be with the road team tonight. And I kind of want to get back to the start of the series key for me. Just get OKC back into the clutch. You did it in game 1. They peed down their leg. You didn't do it in game 2. Let's see what happens if you create game pressure clutch moments in your own building. I would also add, I think that is the ultimate test for the Thunder. And I think at the very least, if you can kind of, maybe it's a bit of a small goal or, a little bit of a small battle, but you get that 5-minute mark and all of a sudden, when the old IndyCar theme starts revving up inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse and the defense chants, they can, street signs are shaking downtown Indianapolis. That's the atmosphere you want to see if the Thunder can prove themselves in. Again, they didn't handle it well in game 1. You didn't sniff giving them that opportunity in game 2. It's time to get back to that tonight.
First game of the NBA Finals. Do we know what the T-shirt's going to look like tonight? Is it going to be yes, sirs?
Yeah, it's a gold. It says, why not?
It's not why not Indiana.
It's in 49 states. No, but this is Indiana.
But
that's what it says.
This
is Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like. I feel like that's a nice little, tip of the cap to basketball in this state.
And it's gold, right? Was it?
Yes, it is gold.
Conference finals, they started wearing the gold. The NBA mandated that.
Did I see on social media the other night there was an Indiana fan at Oklahoma City and he was wearing his gold jersey, and because they had all their blue T-shirts, someone asked him to take that off? Like, you don't take that off for anybody, do you, regardless of where you're at?
No, especially not the team you're rooting against.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't see this, so I have no idea.
I did see a guy in a yellow jersey though. But yeah, I'd be like, stick it. I'm not putting that on.
They panned to the crowd. I saw plenty of gold.
My guess is that some
shirts.
Unknowing intern asked him to do that. But I'd be like, no, go away.
I'd tell that intern to go take a long walk off a short pier.
I am trying to hashtag things that didn't happen. I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's real. Why would you even ask anybody that?
Yeah, they'd be like going to Lambeau Field and like, hey, excuse me, Bears fans, can you put that?
Yeah, I feel like this would be like
Packers green jersey.
One of those pranks where they have like the employee do something and you go over there and make it a big spectacle. But yeah, hashtag things
are
that
you
didn't
suggesting
happen.
that anything on the internet is staged these days, James?
I'm just saying we're gonna bring it up. Let's try to verify it because I'm like, what the heck does that even mean? But I do want to say, in reference to this is Indiana, so Hoosier-esque run the Pacers are on. I did a story. And I feel like I rarely kind of just plug my stories. But, yeah, go check out the column I wrote on Tyrese Haliburton, what he means to the state, his, opportunity to be kind of immortal in Indiana basketball history if they go win the title. So a lot of references there. There's a Bobby Plant reference in there for the older crowd, which I think you all will enjoy. And, I'm excited to see just how he responds in Game 3.
All right, that's coming up later on tonight. We are about 11 and a half hours away and some change as well. You'll hear it live here on the Fan. We'll try to get you there as quickly as we can. Next hour coming your way. We'll open up the phone lines as well, 239-1070. Call your shot for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. It's back in Indiana for the first time in a quarter of a century. We'll talk about it next. Welcome back to the Fan Morning Show.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Fan Morning Show. James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton. And I'm very pleased to bring in our next guest on the Payless Liquors Hotline, Tim Legler, who I've watched and known for a long time since he was an Omaha racer right out of college back in the day, and watched him become one of the best shooters in the NBA and a terrific NBA analyst. And now he joins us here on the Fan Morning Show. Good morning, Mr. Legler. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you guys? You guys ready to host this finals?
Yes, we are.
Right.
We're ready to go. I think anyway, the Pacers play their best basketball of the series tonight at home in front of a fired-up crowd. I'm trying not to be a homer about it, but I get that feeling, Tim. Talk me down or talk me up. What's going to happen here?
Well, I don't want. This isn't like taking a shot at them, but I will say that I don't think that's saying a whole lot because I don't think their offense. I don't think their offense was anywhere close to what it can be in the two games in Oklahoma City. Now, I get they're playing against this great defense, and we're going to find out tonight, I think. Is this going to be something they're going to have a hard time the entire series, or is it possible for them coming home, getting a little bit more life and energy, probably a little bit more tempo and pace to their game, have some role players step up and actually finally look like the offense that I've been watching all year and that I certainly was watching through the first three rounds of the playoffs, because I don't feel like at any point they really hit their stride. I know they had the spurt at the end of game one, pretty big, important moment there, to win that game and the way they played the last 9 minutes of game one. But I still don't feel like we've seen them really get out and play the type of offense that we're used to. So I think you're right. I think tonight it finally happens.
Tim, we really appreciate the time. We know you're crazy busy, and I speak for everybody in here. We are huge fans of your work, so thank you for making time for us. Let's talk specifically about the Pacers star. Through two games, Tyrese Haliburton, a bit pedestrian. I think you go back to the regular season matchups, and you would see that as well with OKC. Would you label it too passive or more just he's struggling against an elite defense?
I think it's a little bit of both, and I think part of it is his own mentality. I think sometimes when I watch him play, I look at him and say he's accepting it tonight, and that's what it looks like in against this team in first two games in Oklahoma City. Like, he's accepting the fact that, like, yeah, man, they can throw a lot of guys at you that can guard the ball, slide their feet. They can hand you off from one elite defender to the other on switches. But I just feel like there still has to be an answer, because if you're telling me there is a solution for Tyrese Haliburton, then I think you have to kind of evaluate him differently as a player, because most of these guys on that level, the all-star caliber player, the star, the superstar, whatever you want to give him, there aren't solutions for those guys. Like, they have bad nights, but it doesn't mean they're solved. And so that's why I think this game tonight is very, very important to prove that. And I think he's got to come out in the first 8 minutes, and no matter what they're doing to him, no matter where they pick him up, no matter what pressure he sees, he's got to have one thing on his mind. I am going to put pressure on this team defensively by playing my tempo. And that doesn't mean shoot the ball necessarily. I think it's helpful because it makes him a dual threat. But you've got to be intent on getting going with forward progress down the floor into the lane, playing fast no matter what happens. Unless they're flat out blitzing you, which they don't really trap him that much. It's more about just getting physical with him and getting up in him, and he just gives the ball up and kind of lets other people do it. And if he continues to do that, Indiana can't win this series unless Tyrese Haliburton looks more like himself when he's playing his best.
Again, ESPN's Tim Legler joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Tim, James Boyd here, big fan of your work, like everyone has said. When it comes to Tyrese, I know you touched on him being more aggressive. In what ways do you think, from a scheme standpoint, that they can help him kind of get downhill? I saw him kind of running him off some picks in the fourth quarter of Game 2. Is that a different wrinkle that maybe they can, unveil in Game 3?
Yeah, listen, I think when he goes off the ball, he needs to go more toward the baseline, come off some staggered screens before he gets it. Like, he was going off the ball a little bit more in those two games, but it's more like he just goes over to the wing. And then it's easy. When you come from the wing to the top, they're just going to deny you the ball. So I think if you can play a little bit more like Curry, when Curry gives it up and he goes down to the baseline and then bring him off some staggered screens up to the top. And the more staggered screens you bring him off of, the more communication Oklahoma City has to pull off and execute. More likely they make a mistake and he gets a little bit of space. That's kind of in the half court when it's all slowed down. I think in the backcourt, there are ways to get him brush screens to get guys off of him more toward the middle third of the court. I feel like he's being almost pushed toward the sideline. That's where the screens are taking place. And then I always say against Oklahoma City, anything that goes near the sideline or the baseline, that's where possessions go to die because they're so good at their rotations in those situations because they practice it every day. That's their identity. You've got to keep the ball more toward the middle of the floor if you're Tyrese Haliburton coming up the floor, whether that's on an outlet pass or, he's going to get those screens when he's got the basketball because they're going to be somebody probably picking him up 60, 65 feet. That's where they do it. He's got to be just better at getting the ball in the areas of the floor where he can operate, and I don't think he's doing that at all. I know there's more there, and like I said, we're going to have to see it tonight. Indiana Pacers fans are going to have to see it, I think, tonight to let them know that, okay, this guy is able to break through against this defense. Because if it happens again tonight, I mean, I don't know, you start to get a little bit hopeless about, is it going to happen against this team?
Last one I'll have on Ty. Tim, when I tell you that the Pacers are 27-28 this season when he scores less than 20, and they're 32-4 when he scores at least 20, what is your reaction to that?
Man, no, it doesn't surprise me because those are the nights I watch him and I go, this is now a guy that's top tier offensive threat in this league, the dual threat component. And I like him hunting shots. And I know that maybe it's a little bit of a secondary thought process for him because he loves being a playmaker and he's great at that. He's elite at that. I think when he hunts shots early in the game, if he can get a couple of threes in the first 5-6 minutes, even if they're not necessarily great shots, who cares? You've got to let them know you're here tonight and this is what your intentions are. And so when he scores, I think it sets up the whole offense because it makes him a better passer. It gives other guys more room because now you're really figuring out two guys pretty much involved in guarding him when he gets hot. And if he's got two guys on him, just do the math. It's 4-on-3 the rest of the court. But when you don't have to worry about him as much as a scorer, you can play him differently, and it makes it much harder for other guys. So those numbers, that's actually incredible. I've never heard that stat. That doesn't surprise me, although that's even a better winning percentage than I would have guessed.
Tim, I got a question about Oklahoma City's defense. You talk about how they're so good at their rotations and they send you to the sideline and the baseline where possessions go to die. But this team is so long and they do such a great job of getting in passing lanes. And it seems like they always have a jab, push to the ball and somebody's knocking the ball away from behind, or as you're going down the lane, they knock it away from you. What makes this particular group of players so good at just harassing whoever's got the ball?
Well, first of all, it really starts with your individual want to, and they've got a lot of guys with want to. And I think Alex Caruso, even bringing him in, I think he's influenced some of their other guys because the couple things that you can really see, to your point, one thing is they never stop pursuing you. Typically, if you come off a screen and now you kind of turn the corner, the guy that gets screened most nights in NBA games at some point accepts that he got screened and he basically says, okay, I'm handing him off now to somebody else. These guys continue to chase. And so now here you go. You think you've gotten a screen and you're headed down the lane and you think you're going to go make a play. And here comes this hand from behind and they're poking it from behind, or I call it chase and rake is kind of what they do better than anybody else. They continue to pursue you. They are probably the best group of guys I've ever seen at being able to slide their feet laterally while using their hands to be active. It's not an easy thing to do. Most guys, you're using your arms to generate speed, so they're out to your side and your feet are moving, and that's what you're concentrating on. They're very quick laterally, but they're also very good while they're sliding at using their hands to continue to bother you and harass you. They're great at pocket passes, like those little bounce passes you throw to big guys after the screen, Miles Turner, Thomas Bryant, whoever it may be, Obi top end. They screen, and then you slip down the lane. That little bounce pass that guards throws called a pocket pass, they're so good at getting their hands low on those bounce passes. You saw that in the first half of game one. I think they threw away at least 4 of those. And you have to throw the ball higher to guys because the guards' hands are so low against OKC, and all those little passing lanes that you take for granted against every other team, they're not there against OKC. So you've got to make that adjustment. I didn't think the turnovers were a major factor in game 2. Obviously, they were in game 1, although Indiana very lucky that OKC didn't convert those because typically they take a turnover and they turn it into at least a point. A lot of nights it's a point and a half. So if you turn the ball over 15 to 20 times against OKC, typically they're going to get 20 to 25 points out of those. They did not do that in game 1. It kept Indiana within striking distance, and then you saw what happened at the end of the game. Game 2, I don't think the turnovers were a massive factor. Indiana's offense just never generated a rhythm, and that's what I'm expecting to happen tonight. I think being at home will energize them in a way that'll unlock this.
Tim, we can't thank you enough for the time. We'll end with this. Week from Thursday would be Game 6 here in Indy. Do you think we will have a Game 6? How do you see this series playing out?
Yeah, I do. I don't see OKC beating them 4 straight times. I do. I think the way I've been kind of predicting this is they're going to split, I believe, here. And I think it's really important that Indiana wins tonight. Even if they lose game 4, it's more important if you're going to get the split that you win this game. Because if you don't, Oklahoma City will then sense going into Friday, they beat you, they go home and close you out. And so it's a different level of pressure Indiana's going to feel. So I think they split here, and then I kind of feel like going forward those last 3 games, it'll be the home team winning out, which would obviously mean OKC would have a Game 7 on their court. And, Game 7s in the NBA typically go to the home team, especially a team this good. So it's kind of what I'm feeling right now, but I do think that this still is going to be a long series. But tonight is so important. If they come out and Indiana puts up 42 points or something in the first half, they have one of those nights, then maybe what I just said is not going to happen. But I have a feeling you're going to see some guys step up. To think they haven't even had one guy really go off at all. Like their 2 stars have not done it. None of their role players, maybe the exception of Obi Toppin in the first game, played to their ceiling. OKC's had Shea twice, Caruso, Wiggins. They've had guys really show up offensively and have big nights individually. Indiana hasn't had anyone do that, and they're still at 1-1. So I think there is a silver lining for Rick Carlisle, and tonight's very important for them.
Tim, thanks for the time again. Appreciate it. Appreciate you and all you do, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, guys.
There is Tim Legler, ESPN, joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. A very measured, realistic take there at the very end, James.
Yeah, no, that's why I enjoy hearing him break down the game, and it's not just a bunch of platitudes. It's breaking down what they could actually do to affect the game and win the game, and I enjoy kind of learning from him. And this is someone who obviously has watched the Pacers all year, because when he's throwing names like Thomas Bryant, I'm like, I don't know if many people outside of Indianapolis know who he is or he plays for the Pacers. And so, yeah, I'm excited about tonight.
I thought the Tyrese stuff was really, really interesting.
Playing like Curry. That piqued my interest. Running off screens, pin downs.
Wish we would have had Tim on Monday at 9 so we could dissect that a little bit more, because we are kind of bumping up against it with the game happening tonight. But that first comment he mentioned, he feels like at times he watches Tyrese and he says he's accepting it too much tonight. I think that is a really interesting way to describe it. It's probably a little bit more on the passive meter then I would go, but I could definitely hear him out on that. And then the running the action for him off the ball. And, it's a little X and OE, but, specifically he mentioned you've got to get him down to the baseline. I think anybody that's watched the Warriors over the years, you see Steph, come flying off those screens when he is, on the baseline, and it does create, much more of a head start. We kind of hit on this yesterday with Haliburton. He's not this individual creator, really. Like, again, if you're listing the strengths of Haliburton, you'd say shooting, you'd say vision, you'd say just his sheer ability to pass. But, like, his ability to create space individually, I don't think that is an advantage of him. He needs a little bit of the advantage to be created for him. And sometimes he can do that instinctually, with the pass, knowing it's, coming back to him, his basketball IQ. And then once he has that advantage, then he exposes you. But his own ability to create that's not his game. Again, it's not a Westbrook level of athleticism in his prime, or Anthony Edwards, or some guys like that. Even Shea is so slippery. Like, I wouldn't even describe Tyrese as that. So, I thought the Legler stuff was really good on Haliburton.
Yeah, I know that. I believe Rico Hines is the trainer. He used to work for Sacramento Kings, I believe. He also worked in Toronto with Pascal Siakam. And the reason I bring him up is he trains with Tyrese in the summer and other guys. They usually go out to the Rico Hines runs. I believe they're in California. And Rico would always say, and Buddy Hield brought this joke to Indiana when they were teammates, what your ones look like. And it means, what does your one-on-one moves look like? And he would always tell Tyrese that, and they would go back and forth, who's better one-on-one player. And I don't think that Tyrese is a very good, well, I won't say he's a good one-on-one player. He's not a great one-on-one player. You can't throw him the ball, in my opinion, and say, go get me a bucket against anybody in the world. And that's what some superstars do, like SGA. You can line him up against any defender in the world. He's probably going to get a good look because he's just that good at playing one-on-one basketball. That is not Tyrese's game, to your point, Kevin. But there's other ways that he can still be effective and push this team in the right direction.
All right, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
8:30 p.m. tip time. You're going to watch it on ABC, listen to it live right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Pregame starts at 8. JMV will be at the pub downtown from 3 until 8. And we'll get ready for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. It's all tied at 1. And after all the talk and all the analysis and all the things we do, at the end of the day, Kevin, simply, it's a chance for the Indiana Pacers to go right back up with a home court advantage on the Oklahoma City Thunder, regardless of how things have gone the first two games.
Yeah, I mean, it would be the first time you would be down in a series, all playoff-wise. You've been used to playing from ahead. Of course, they're tied right now for the first time here at 1-1. So, yeah, I thought Tim even laid out kind of the lay of the land of the series the rest of the way. I don't think 2-2 is a death sentence, but I understand where he's coming from, and kind of the home court tends to favor those teams the deeper you get into a series. Nonetheless, it is a huge, huge game, one of the biggest in franchise history, tonight inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
James, you and Kevin were over there at practice yesterday. Tyrese Haliburton, when last we saw him at the end of his post-game press conference after Game 2, kind of hobbling off the podium, he described his issue yesterday as a, quote, lower body thing, unquote. What do we know?
That he's fine. That's what he told us. He's going to play in Game 3. I was actually not over at practice. I let, Kevin fly solo. I made sure, that I figured at this point in his career, he probably knows where Gainbridge Fieldhouse is. I wasn't concerned about him finding his way around.
Enrique Freeman Lane, I believe, is what.
I just worry about him finding his way back.
Exactly. But yeah, and seriously, though, I was very curious to see Kevin's video of him running around. He looked like he was fine, and I didn't think it was a big deal after Game 2, and he's not going to use it as an excuse in Game 3. I know that for sure.
All right, the Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight at Gainbridge. And the Indiana Fever on the road last night, losing at Atlanta 77-58, their fifth straight game playing without Caitlin Clark. They had won 2 in a row before last night, but it all fell apart in Atlanta.
Yeah, that third quarter did him in. Only 9 points. That is not going to help you in any league or any world of basketball if you score 9 points in a quarter.
Natasha Howard led the Fever with 15 points, 10 boards. Ari McDonald had 14. I know it's complicated. Is there any way to keep her on at the team after her emergency service is expired?
No. They like the WNBA, the rules, they have to release her. And so there's a possibility.
Is it a 10-day hardship? So
it's not a 10-day hardship. It's basically until another player comes back.
Got it.
So I believe it's indefinite, but again, the rules stipulate you have to release her. Now, would you bring her back and potentially make some other roster changes? Possibly, but other teams would have a chance to acquire her at that point.
Well, she had 14 points last night. She's been terrific since they signed her. Lexi Hull was 0 for last night, 0 for 5. Kelsey Mitchell held to 11. They will play again at home Saturday afternoon at the Fieldhouse against the New York Liberty. Yesterday, I do know, James, you were out at West 56th Street as the Irsay girls, the 3 daughters of Jim Irsay, met with the media for the first time after the passing of their father.
Yeah, and they let us all know, hey, we're no longer the little girls that were following dad around. We're grown women. We're ready to run this team. And, one of my biggest takeaways at the end was Carlisle Irsay Gordon saying, we weren't hedge fund children, or we didn't just kind of, fall into this way after the fact. This is our lifestyle. And so I'm excited to see how they lead. And it sounds like they are putting everyone on notice, like, hey, whatever standard we had before, whatever has been transpiring hasn't been good enough. And we will not hear, to Kevin's point earlier in the show, a lot of hyperbolic statements. They were like, no, we look at reality and it hasn't been good enough, and everyone knows that. And so because of that, we'll respond to whatever decisions we make according to that.
What did you take away from the press conference yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo a lot of that. I think anytime you see different ownership, groups, people take over, it's met with skepticism naturally from fans, and I understand that. But I think you should be comforted by the fact that in Carly's case, the oldest daughter, this has been her life for the better part of the last 10, 20 years, and certainly so much of her childhood. Yes, she went away for college. Yes, she thought about doing something maybe initially right out of college different, but for the most part, it's been Colts. And I would agree with Stephen Holder, who spoke earlier. Carly Irsay has been in that building, I'd argue, 10 times more than her father over the last few years. I know that's not the end-all, be-all, but she has been very ingrained into the NFL life. It is different now in the decisions she might have to make here very, very soon for her franchise. But I think at that aspect of it, you are comforted by it. We'll play a couple more audio clips here upcoming from her yesterday.
I say this not as somebody who has ever met her, because I've never met her before. I've covered the league for a long time, and from afar, from the people that I talk to that have been in the league forever, this is a serious person who knows the job, and I think the Colts should be okay. That's what I'm hearing around the league, so for whatever that's worth. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball, what happened to the Cincinnati Reds yesterday?
Look now, but here come the Red Legs.
Kevin.
I'm just proud of Mark more than anything. I mean, that's now 3
what
different morning checkdowns. He has played Red specific audio, and all 3 of them, he wasn't deterred when Jeff led off the first morning checkdown with a Cubs score for some reason, and not the Reds' complete game, 110 pitches from Andrew Bleepin Abbott, 3-hitter. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Man of integrity.
Thank you.
I
Mark,
take back everything I said about you.
I will. I'll stroke your ego over there, Mark. Ian Happ had 2 home runs yesterday in the Cubs' 8-4 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies. St. Louis Cardinals lose at home to the Blue Jays 10-9, and the Indianapolis Indians were at home at Victory Field last night. They edged the St. Paul Saints 3-2. Those 2 teams will play again this afternoon at 1:35 over at Victory Field, and we are on the eve of another U.S. Golf Open.
Father's Day weekend in the U.S. Open. It goes hand in hand. Cannot wait for that. Oakmont is the definition of carnage and arguably the toughest golf course in our entire country. So cannot wait to see the pros try and attempt this. Jeff Rickard mentioned earlier in the show he would shoot 90 at Oakmont.
Set the course record.
Front 9.
Rory McIlroy at 90 for 18 holes, you said. Rory McIlroy said he shot 81 in his practice round, just to clarify that. So Rory seeing you on the first tee and say, all right, Jeff, you want to play heads up? I'll give you 9 shots for the day.
He did say this was 20 years ago when he was in his prime.
The story's changed a bit since 7:25 in the first.
No, it's exactly what I said.
Which is still,
I love you guys. How it just slowly evolves over time to whatever.
Never been to Oakmont, but I do think it's a cool story tomorrow. The opening tee shot will be hit by Matt Vogt. For those that haven't been seeing the story, he is a Butler alum. That is right here, Butler Bulldogs, and was an Oakmont caddy. Qualified. This part, what's cool about the U.S. Open, they do give spots. It's an open event for a lot of their spots, so you can qualify. And Matt Vogt, a member here at Highland Country Club here in Indianapolis, has qualified and will hit the opening tee shot at 6:45 tomorrow morning.
So, true, honest question, Kevin. You are actually a real golfer. You played in high school, and I've seen you play. You're a good golfer. What's the toughest course you've ever played?
Victoria National down in Newburgh, Indiana, just north of Evansville, I think is a brutally challenging golf course. Probably there. I also think Purdue's golf course is very tough, especially when the wind blows. Campen Costler golf course.
Yeah.
I think Purdue's got one of the best college golf courses. Actually held the national title back in 2008, and I think only one player broke par for the 4 days there. So, yeah, right here in Indiana, you got some very difficult golf courses. Certainly down in Victoria National would be atop the list.
We do have some NBA news. Sham Charania.
This is hilarious.
Saying, the Knicks have fired Tom Thibodeau, who got them the farthest they've been in quite some time. Sham says, the New York Knicks requested permission Wednesday morning to speak to Mavericks coach Jason Kidd, and Dallas gave a firm rejection, sources told ESPN. Knicks have now been denied on Jason Kidd, Minnesota's Chris Finch, and Houston's Ime Udoka.
Well, they got to call
Great
Brad
job, New York. Good job
They got to call Brad Stevens next.
Yeah.
Or call the Pope.
I mean, that's like counting chickens before they hatch. Like, you're firing Tom Thibodeau.
You should just hire Brunson's dad.
Yeah,
just treat it like it's some,
that's what's gonna end up
AAU
being.
program or something.
It's still jolting for me to hear a Pope speak, and it's just perfectly fluent English, as it should be, coming from Chicago. In my lifetime, that just doesn't happen. It was weird the other day. I saw something.
He might be on the sidelines coming up here with his Villanova boys.
He might coach, yeah.
82 nights out of the year.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll open up the phone lines 239-1070. Call your shot as we get ready to go to Game 3 of the NBA Finals later on tonight, right here in downtown Indianapolis at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We call it game day. Later on tonight, 8:30, Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Been talking about all morning long, but I know you guys cover the Colts for a good chunk of your living, and you were out there yesterday as the Irsay daughters had their first public speaking appearance in the wake of their father's passing a couple of weeks ago, and we've been talking about that all morning long, and there were some really interesting things that happened there, Kevin, and I know there's one that you found particularly interesting.
I thought one of the more interesting answers was, when Carly was asked about rocking the headset on the sidelines during game days. I think for the most part, fans have seen this look. I mean, James, she's virtually at every practice we were at yesterday. I saw the garage doors in the indoor facility go up, and there she was, overlooking practice yesterday, even before she was.
Y'all better be playing good football.
Even before the press conference was about to get underway. And I get optically, it's a bit odd, and she certainly stands out, on the sidelines. And a lot of people have been like, "Oh my gosh, what is she doing? Is she calling plays, et cetera, et cetera?"
I love this answer.
She was ready for the question, and this was her answer in regards to the headset.
One of the things that I learned in going through, even as back as when we hired Chuck Pagano, is that sort of accelerated I need to learn more about this. I need to be able to say, is this person full of BS? Do they even know what they're talking about? And I think one of the things that being on the headset has really helped me learn is, to the question earlier, it's such a complex organism, a football team and how it operates. And on game day, and you could say, oh, that person ran that route wrong. When you learn to find, someone tagged the wrong wide receiver, and it wasn't really the player's fault. It was the person that called it. So, and it's never, I think that's been a very valuable, because it also helps us be able to know, where do we need to make tweaks? What resources do we need? What do we need to fix? So much of it comes down to just how we operate and how things work. And the headsets are really, I wish more, I would suggest it for anyone else that has to pay coaches and GMs millions and millions of dollars. It helps you make a less expensive mistake, potentially.
Bars. That last line, I was like, wow, we have to pay these people so much money, and it could be a less expensive mistake. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I thought that answer was very insightful, honestly. And it's not like she's saying, oh, I am, now the best play caller in the league, but she was just saying, no, it's an opportunity for me to kind of understand how this game works. And she also used the word organism to describe a team in the franchise. And she was like, it's such an interesting organism and so many moving parts and things like that. So I thought that answer was very insightful. And again, she talks as if she knows what she's doing, and she doesn't back down from those questions, which I was not necessarily impressed with, but just curious to see how much they would delve into the football side of things. Because you could sit up there and say, hey, our father has passed, we're going to, keep things in-house. But no, they were very upfront, and Carly in particular, about, no, this is where we believe we can grow. And she also said she's coming for training camp for more competition. She referenced Anthony Richardson, like all these things that she didn't really avoid. And she made it clear, no, me and my sisters will not hide or run from our responsibilities. We're here, we're prepared, and we're going to, make sure that we do our best to turn this thing around.
I thought it was a brilliant answer. I thought, I think something that I would find beneficial, and I probably didn't think of this until after she explained it like she did yesterday, you also see raw emotion. And I think that is such an important thing to witness, experience.
Like from the other people?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
To take in if you are a decision maker like her. If I'm handing Shane Steichen, whatever, 4-year, $6 million, 6-year, $4 million contract, whatever it is, I want to make sure that I know that person damn well. And I see them behind closed doors, in front of closed door, all of it. But that element of the 60 minutes on game day, you're getting the raw emotion, and really you're finding out a lot of answers that we don't usually see.
Yeah.
She laid out the example of it right there. And it's why I haven't sat courtside very often, but like when I did cover the Pacers on a daily basis and were able to sit close to the floor, when you can hear that interaction, it is unbelievable, the stuff you can kind of take away and just observe of like, oh man, and you sometimes see this on the TV copy, but oh, wow, Rick seemed very upset with insert player here. Let me jot that down, and I'll ask him about that after the game. It's a little bit of the raw emotion you're getting, but she's getting it times 10 because she's hearing everything that is being said. Coach, Booth to Shane, Booth to Louis Anarumo, Booth to Gus Bradley. Sometimes obviously players are on the headsets as well. So I get optically it looks odd, and I know that people are like, oh my gosh, it's the owner calling plays, and look what her grandpa did, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's simply just someone that is absorbing information and trying to be a sponge.
I'll tell you what, Kevin, you bring back memories. I remember being down in Orlando, Florida, covering the Pacers my one season, and I believe it was Goga Batadze and Lance Stevenson going at it in the huddle, and I was right nearby, and I could hear everything. And I was like, wow, I know whose fault this is, and I believe it was Lance's. But, yeah, that was a funny reaction. So, yeah, I think she gets that sideline emotion like you said, and I hadn't thought about it from that angle, but, yeah, when you're on game day, you're probably witnessing everyone's realest form. Like,
yes,
I had this conversation the other day about media.
That's all we want is realness from people.
Yeah, but this is the thing, though. When even in our space, in our setting, we can't be 100% of who we are, like, on air. But when you're in the thick of it, and this is your livelihood for your game, and you're playing a game like football where it requires a certain level of heightened awareness, I'll put it like that. Because, for example, the Michael Pittman Jr. we see, the farmer, the dad, is not the guy we see on Sundays. And so seeing that guy up close will give you better context, I think, of everyone when they're in that version of themselves.
And let's just play this out a little bit further. Like, let's say, boom, Jim Bob Cooter has a suggestion to Shane Steichen, and it goes swimmingly well. And all of a sudden, Carly starts looking at her notes in the season. She's like, man, Jim Bob's gotten on that headset like 18 times this season. And whatever, 12 or 13 times, it's really worked. Or like, when Shane's listened to him, now all of a sudden she's walking back and being like, all right, that's an offensive coordinator who doesn't call the plays. Mm-hmm. But I have a little bit of intel into like his ideas have turned out to be pretty good. You know, we should keep him. Or, those just sorts of things I think are important factors in really kind of leaving no stone unturned.
Yeah, I just like the fact that as the person who ultimately has to make decisions, you truly have the opportunity to see how do these people perform under pressure? Do they respect each other? Who do they respect? Who do they listen to? Who don't they listen to? All those kinds of things. I think it gives her a complete picture of what's really going on for someone who clearly has learned about the game at the foot of her father and has been very involved in this team for probably a decade now.
As a player, I'm like, man, that would be – I don't know if it would take some getting used to just because it's the norm here. But, man, I'd be thinking I would at least, walk to the sideline. Hey, how you doing? I'm here. I'm employed. I thank you for, making sure I have a job here and try to go out there and prove it. So I don't know how that would be for me personally, but I guess that's why they get paid the money that they do because they can compartmentalize and go out there and perform.
To be clear, she's not saying anything on these headsets. She's just listening and observing.
No. And again, she means business, though. I definitely got that vibe from her and her sisters.
All right, Mark, I'm feeling generous today. We have a 4-pack of tickets to give away to the Indy 11 game. Two 4-packs. All right, James. Callers 1 and 2. You're simple though.
Yeah,
right?
I'm about to say. You know me. I might not ever go to a caller 7 again. We respect winners around here.
All right, they'll be playing Pittsburgh this weekend, and you have a chance to get up a 4-pack of tickets to go. You and your family. Call us up right now. 239-1070 is the Indy 11 back at home, and Carol and they're going to be doing their thing, and we would invite you to be a part of that. We'll finish up the show strong with a Scotty J Superstat of the day and some final thoughts on Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. That's next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Winners, Mark Dykton. I want winners. Do we have winners already this morning here on the Fan Morning Show?
Brandon and Drew, congratulations.
We have winners tomorrow morning when we show back up at 7 a.m., Kevin Bowen?
Man, what a night. What a night. It will be inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Certainly one of the biggest games this franchise has ever seen. I was chatting with my mother's dear friend, the great Carrie Hudnick, earlier this week. She reminded me she was a season ticket holder back in 2000. Tonight is the 25-year anniversary of the first ever NBA Finals game that the Pacers hosted. Her ticket that night, the front row of the upper deck, $18.
Get out of here.
$18 to watch the Pacers beat the Lakers in Game 3 back in 2000.
Man.
Of course, the last time the Pacers hosted a home NBA Finals game, they also beat the Lakers by a lot, 33 in Game 5. Certainly you'll take anything to get to a win tonight. Yeah, I think the Pacers do get it done. I'm a big believer in the others. Tend to fluctuate a bit away from home. Having said that, the Pacers need their stars to look like stars, and I think they'll get some of that. But I will say my confidence is not as high as it was certainly exiting Game 1.
All right, for a little more context and perspective on this, here is your Jiffy Lube stat of the day, courtesy of one Scott Johnston, who's wearing a very sharp kind of heather gray Pacers polo today.
He's always
Scott,
sharp,
man.
I'm not going to lie. I don't even know what heather gray means. It sounds like a girl I went to junior high with.
Wow. Pacers host the Thunder in Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. Tonight's game comes 25 years to the day, as you were saying, Kev, of the Pacers' first win in an NBA Finals. They knocked off the Lakers 191 in Game 3 of the Finals at the Fieldhouse, June 11th, 2000. Now, each of the past 3 times the Pacers have lost by 15 or more points this postseason, James Boyd, they have responded with a win of at least 15 points. We getting that tonight?
You said, are we?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that. We'll see.
Well, here's more. The Pacers have shot 40.1% from three-point range during the postseason. That is the 5th best three-point percentage among all teams that reached the NBA Finals. The 1993 Bulls had the best percentage of Finals participants at 43.4%, followed by the 2017 Cavs, the 2014 Spurs, and the 2016 Cavs. Of those 4 other teams, only the 2017 Cavs lost in the finals. Just get back to doing what you do.
Yeah, they definitely have to make some shots, and I believe they will shoot the ball better at home. But, again, a lot of it comes back to the head of the snake. How can you get Tyrese Haliburton involved in this game and make him look more like himself and against a Thunder opponent, even dating back to the regular season, that has really taking him out of these games?
If you missed it, Tim Legler was on with us earlier from ESPN. He does great work as an analyst there. That'll be up on the podcast. I thought his Haliburton stuff was really specific and honestly had me nodding my head like, oh, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense when he shared those thoughts. So definitely check that out on the podcast here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to Game 3 tonight again. Just the wheres and what fors. 8:30 is the scheduled tip time.
8:37.
Is tip, actually?
Tip.
All right. 8:30 is when our broadcast with Mark Boylan and Eddie Gill begins. At 8 o'clock, you'll hear from Pat Boylan. And from 3 to 8, head on over to the pub downtown. It's right there on Georgia Street. You going to head over there, JB, before you get going?
Pull up at 4 p.m., and I'll tell you all about how I cooked Mr. JMV.
Did you say you scored all 15 points in a clinching game?
Yeah, we finished up. And, I mean, granted, I'll be honest about this. We ran 4s because 2 of the guys dropped. They were like, hey, you want to run more with just 4s? And I'm like, if you give me more space, it's over. And so I got knocked down a couple of 3s, and, I scored all 15 to get them up out of there. Love you, JMV.
That is hibachi.
Man.
Yeah. Oh, this is my crowning achievement.
Man, you at Southport, Jeff at Oakmont. We got some big-time sporting
you can't stop us.
Sporting events here.
James,
well, no. I did not say that I would.
Superstars, right?
Yeah, I didn't say that my performance would translate to 20 points in the finals, which is basically what Jeff said. But, I have high confidence.
Looking forward to that. But no, I was to the point of how scary that course looks. I was watching video again this morning. There's a guy rolling a putter from 120 yards up onto the green.
That guy was not you, though. He wasn't you.
That was a hell of a shot by Zach Blair. He hit that putter to like 10 feet, it looked like.
Yeah, and that had undulations on it, too, on the green. It just kept going to the right spot. And I was like, That is crazy. And then I saw them. What really frightened me is I saw them drop a ball into the first cut of rough, the real rough. You can't see the ball again, Kevin. It's gone. It's over. How do you deal with that?
Welcome to Oakmont. Oakmont is like the Thunder defensively.
And you just push that back onto the fairway as best you can, right? You don't try to do anything with that golf ball.
Hope and pray. Many of us would probably just pick it up and throw it back in the fairway.
I do want to plug this real quick. Shout out to my buddy Nate Atkins. Got the exclusive from Jermaine O'Neal. He'll be in the building tonight for Game 3.
What other kinds of celebrities do you think we'll see?
I'm not so sure, but Jermaine O'Neal said, I'm hoping this is the storybook ending, and he certainly was a big part of that 2000 team that went to the finals.
I'm trying to think. Someone was telling me that Morgan Wallen was trying to get courtside tickets. Maybe the Pacers said no. I don't really know the.
You gotta talk to me. I'm a man around here.
Be careful, he might start throwing chairs or something.
Oh Lord!
Did you see the?
Yeah, he does have some antics. Yeah, that could be Malice at the Palace.
Did you see the little in camera in the house? You know how people have cameras up in their rooms in the corner sometimes. Reggie Miller and his family's reaction.
That was awesome
to the Game 1 winner.
We're all still fans at the end of the day.
It was fun to watch. All right, have a great day. It'll be Jake from noon to 3, JMV downtown from the pub live from 3 to 8. And then our coverage begins at 8 as the Pacers get ready to run it back against the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. Have a great